At number 10, we have Green Lantern's Power Ring upgrade that allows the rings to communicate with the other Green Lanterns in the universe. This feature, added by the Guardians of the Universe, is a huge upgrade that gives the ring a major advantage. Although there has always been an emergency beacon offered as part of the ring's powers, this is only meant to be used to relay to other Green Lanterns in times of distress. The homing beacon is a fantastic way to bring all the powers of the Green Lanterns together at any time, giving them that extra support whenever it's needed. Or even aside from combat situations, this is a great power to allow Green Lanterns to communicate with one another about strategy to better prepare themselves in the planning stages. Considering there are plenty of Green Lanterns throughout the universe, it would otherwise be extremely difficult to ensure that everyone is where they need to be at any given moment. Pretty nifty, and an underrated ability if you ask me. At number 9, we have Sam Wilson's Captain America suit. This is a huge upgrade for this suit, giving it vibranium wings, Gatling guns, and a nice little clip for the shield right on his back. While Captain America's suit usually doesn't change very drastically over the years, it's pretty obvious that it's due to the fact that Cap is strong enough that he doesn't need to rely on his suit to help him. He's usually more of a leader, with his most valuable assets being his military strategy and brute strength. But when he hands off the moniker to Falcon, the classic suit and shield get a huge upgrade. And not because Falcon needs the support of his suit, but because why not? I mean, Falcon has to have wings, so already a Captain America suit with wings is enough. But throwing those guns on it really brings the suit to a new level. And he still gets to keep the shield. I think a mortal retired Steve Rogers will sleep soundly at night knowing Sam is on the job with this upgraded suit. At number 8, we have Captain Marvel's Nega Bands. Although you may know Marvel's suit as already having the Nega Bands as part of the package, this wasn't always the case. Before he acquires them, he is still extremely powerful from being empowered by a cosmic entity named Zoe, later properly realized as Eon. He's able to fly faster than light speed, has superhuman strength, and is also able to teleport anywhere in the universe instantly. So it's hard to imagine how a suit upgrade would offer any sort of improvement, but it does. When the Nega Bands are added to the equation, Marvel is then able to travel between reality and the negative zone whenever he wants. But that's not all, at all. He can also absorb any energy that is coming at him, be it a powerful blast from an enemy or even the energy of the sun. They are also capable of providing healing powers and increased strength. They even keep the wearer from requiring food, air, water, and sleep, which is pretty helpful. They do have their limitations though. They don't protect from drowning or gas-based attacks, and this actually leads to Captain Marvel's demise when he's inflicted with a poison gas by Nitro that actually gives him terminal cancer. But anyway, let's not get too dark here. These Nega Bands are a huge upgrade for Marvel, and that's all that matters in terms of this suit. At number 7 is the Superman Godfall suit upgrade. Now, considering Superman's unmatched strength, he doesn't really have much use for upgrades in that regard, but this suit upgrade is all about the looks and the motorcycle. In the Superman Godfall storyline, Superman has lost his memory and is living in what appears to be a dystopian city called Kandor, alongside his wife Lila. It's a state we aren't used to seeing Superman in. He's got a job, working at a kitchen, and appears to be living a pretty human life, without even his secret identity needing to be hidden. And his costume is just, it's so cool and Blade Runner-esque with a Tron-style motorcycle to boot. I mean, who doesn't want to see Superman having access to a motorcycle when he's facing off against dystopian villains? It's just a great reimagining of the character and the suit he wears, and I think it's a fair addition to this list. Upgrades don't always have to be based on abilities and features, you know. Looks matter too. Okay, at number 6, I'm putting Blade's silver armor from Blade Vampire Hunter from 1999. Taking a break from the usual mysterious green or black trench coat, this suit offers a whole new image for Blade. Now, I don't know if I'd say this is his best look ever, but I will say that it's a big upgrade in terms of utility. Having armor seems like a pretty obvious call for a vampire hunter from the get-go, so when I found the silver armor, I knew it had to make an appearance on the list. And the main reason why this suit ranks higher on the list is that silver is known to be a weakness for vampires, which are naturally a threat to a vampire hunter. This suggests that aside from the defense upgrade, this suit also gives Brooks a huge added advantage against his typical foes, on top of the obvious protective advantage. Even though it only sticks around for 2 years, this is a good upgrade for the character that offers much more protection than his typical garb. With a silver chestplate and silver gauntlets, this costume just gives Eric Brooks a more reasonable level of protection and sort of fits him into the category of superhero a bit more. At least in the traditional sense of how he looks. I still think it was the right move to bring him back to his original black leather jacket after this suit ran its course, but it is a good moment for Blade's armor in the grand scheme of things. At number 5, we've got a controversial one, Wolverine's heated claws. Although this upgrade is known to be slightly silly and short-lasting, I think it's probably one of the best straight-up upgrades on this list. It's not an attachment or an aesthetic update, but a good old-fashioned upgrade of the pre-existing power, and it's Wolverine's primary weapon of choice, so getting to keep using the same old equipment, except now it can heat up to extreme temperatures, that's pretty good. And what makes it even cooler is how the heated claws are formed. When Wolverine is resurrected from death, the excess energy left over from his body's healing process goes into his claws and brings the adamantium to extreme temperatures. Now remember, these claws are made of one of the most durable metals in the universe, so even though heated metal tends to soften, you shouldn't expect his adamantium claws to do the same. These things are driving right into any and every enemy like a hot knife through soft butter. Ew, that's a weird visual. But it's true, and not to mention, this dude just came back from the dead, so you can expect him to be pretty angry and ready to take it out on anyone in his way. Okay, at number 4 is the Iron Spider suit. Now, this is such a huge upgrade that the word upgrade doesn't even do it justice. Now, if you've seen my list of the top 10 Spider-Man suits, you know that the hero has had many different suits and they are all useful in their own right. But this one is probably the most drastic change that the suit endures in the right direction. Designed by Tony Stark himself, this upgrade changes literally every aspect of the suit for the better. It gets these 4 spider legs with grips and cameras on the ends of them, allowing the wearer to use them to climb walls hands-free as well as use the cameras to see around corners. He's also got the same internal HUD system as Iron Man's suit, giving him heightened senses using the computer's intel, not to mention the sophisticated mask system that offers full filtration to keep him from facing a similar fate to Captain Marvel. And a gliding system, giving him more hang time between web swings. It's a huge upgrade to the suit that totally changes the game for Spider-Man and offers him a whole new set of capabilities with which to defend himself and to best all the bad guys. At number 3, we've got Iron Man's Hulkbuster suit, which is an insanely powerful upgrade to the typical Iron Man suit, as you can probably already tell by the name. Now, just like Spidey, Iron Man has seen tons of different iterations of his suit, but in this case, this upgrade has a very specific function: to bust the Hulk. To fight the Hulk, yes. The goal is to get the suit to a point where it's ready to take on the Hulk. Otherwise known as Iron Man's Mark 44 armor, this upgrade gives Tony Stark all the tools he needs to take down a bad guy bigger than those he's used to. This thing has a missile launcher, a grappling hook, and something called automatic prehensile propulsion technology, which is basically a function that allows the armor to assemble on its own when it's called upon. And considering the Hulk's impulsive reputation, this feature would probably come in handy if the Hulk suddenly decided he wasn't on Tony's side anymore. On top of all this, he's got the built-in rams, which are used to add that extra oomph to Iron Man's punches. And if he decides that brute force is no use against the Green Giant, he's also got sleeping gas built into this thing. Although it's not super useful in the movies, this feature will definitely find its benefit at some point down the line if applied properly. At number 2 are Spider-Man's web shooters. I know this is the second Spider-Man upgrade on this list, but it's just a classic upgrade that must be mentioned. I mean, I would even argue that this is the ultimate superhero suit upgrade. And what makes this one really special is that it's the first time we're really shown how much of a scientific genius Peter Parker is. Sure, his character is established on the basis that he's very smart and proficient in biology, but this invention basically allows him to be Spider-Man. Not only does he design the shooters themselves, but he creates the web fluid, which is arguably one of the most useful and durable materials in the world. This list features plenty of upgrades that take an already powerful suit and bring it to a new level, but this entry is an upgrade that turns a guy with superhuman strength and reflexes into, well, Spider-Man. We all know about this one, and it's almost seen as a given at this point, but it really deserves credit for what it really is and was at the time of its creation. A huge step into Spider-Man's career as a superhero. Alright, at number 1 we have the Batman Justice Buster upgrade, which ranks high on the list because once again, the word upgrade is a total understatement on this one. I break this one down in more depth than the top 10 Batman suits list, but basically, this suit is designed to take on the Justice League. So every element of this suit has some sort of benefit against each of the members of the Justice League, giving the mortal Bruce Wayne an unmatched advantage against any opponents, not just the Justice League. Considering the suit he dons before the Justice Buster is just his typical costume, having a mechanized suit that has processors that work faster than the Flash can move is a pretty big upgrade. And besides the many features specific for taking down the members of the Justice League, this suit just has huge defense stats and attack strength that would help Bruce in any combat situation.
Coming in at number 10 is Spider-Man with the powers of the Beyonder. For this point, we are talking about regular old Peter Parker from Spider-Man and Secret Wars number 4, when he temporarily gains the powers of the Beyonder. Before Dr. Doom was granted the Beyonder's powers in Secret Wars, the Beyonder power actually went to 2 others. Once the power left the Beyonder himself, it actually went straight to Wolverine, who absolutely could not handle the power, so he almost immediately bestowed it onto Spider-Man. With this power, Spider-Man turns Doc Ock into plants, obliterates a big group of villains, easily rips apart Ultron, literally stomps on the Molecule Man, and defeats Galactus with his fists. He brings the city from the 32nd century into the modern day, creating New Parker City. He saves Uncle Ben on like 3 separate occasions, but then we learn that this all happened in like 1/1000th of a second before Dr. Doom took the power back for himself, which was the way it was supposed to be. Number 9, Silver Surfer becoming worthy. If you want to see a whole whack of upgraded characters, then I send you to the Thanos Wins arc from writers Donny Cates and Jeff Shaw from Thanos Volume 2. Thanos goes to the end of the universe where he has become King Thanos, and in issue 16, a vengeful Silver Surfer shows up to take both of these versions of Thanos on after spending millions of years becoming the last being worthy of Thor's hammer, taking on a darker look imbued with black matter, calling himself the Fallen One, and gaining control over the Annihilation Wave. He shows up with the Annihilation Wave, hits both versions of the Mad Titan with massive blows, he one-shots a cosmic-powered Ghost Rider, he reverts the Hulk back into Bruce Banner, but somehow still gets defeated by King Thanos, who wields the Twilight Sword of Surtur, and then King Thanos and regular Thanos proceed to viciously bring the Surfer to his end. Now I'm telling you, this story is absolutely bonkers, and to prove that, we will now talk about the number 8 spot, Frank Castle with the power of the Ghost Rider and the Power Cosmic. Coming from the same Thanos comic just a few issues earlier in number 13, this version of Frank Castle comes from the future and he is quite literally insane. He shows up in the most bad way ever, causing a rain of blood before blasting through Thanos' army of Chitauri with hellfire and riding this insane looking space motorcycle. It's quite beautiful, honestly. He then traps Thanos in a chain made of the bones of Sidorak, and using a fraction of the time stone, he takes Thanos all the way to the future to meet that King Thanos that we just talked about. This is Frank Castle, who was hit with debris and died during the final stand against Thanos on Earth in an alternate universe. Once Frank made it to Hell, he made a deal with Mephisto to return to Earth for vengeance on the Mad Titan, but when this new Ghost Rider showed back up on Earth, everything was already lost. He was completely alone, and even Mephisto stopped responding eventually. This drove Frank Castle insane. Galactus eventually did show up, and Frank gave Galactus the Earth in exchange for being his herald and gaining the Power Cosmic as well as the Ghost Rider. These two spent hundreds of years together until the day they finally faced Thanos, who defeated Galactus with one fell head-chopping swoop. Frank then became King Thanos' #1 guy. He was such a great character that he even got his own solo series, which you just need to check out. Number 7, Iron Man and Doctor Strange. So, it turns out that Tony Stark is actually a good fit to become the Sorcerer Supreme, as it has happened not just once, but on 2 separate occasions in Marvel Comics. The first time would be in What If issue number 113 from 1998, where Tony and Stephen Strange meet at a party, and after leaving together, Tony Tony is driving when they get into a car crash that ruins the Doctor's hands. This leads Tony on a journey fueled by guilt to try and repair Strange's hands, leading him to the Ancient One and becoming the master of the mystic arts, but also learning how to infuse his tech and armor with magic to create a much more capable hero that is portrayed to Dormammu by Stephen Strange, who becomes almost like Baron Mordo. Now the second time would be an all-new X-Men Annual #1 from 2014, which showed us Iron Man from Earth TRN 591, who brought together the Avengers to permanently end the threat of Thanos, which resulted in the alien races of the universe rewarding Earth with technology, making it a utopia, and Tony would start to lean more into his mystical side, becoming the Sorcerer Supreme and being able to solve conflicts without any kind of real fighting, and living youthfully comfortable at 126 years old, which is insane. And then the thumbnail for this list is also an Iron Sorcerer Supreme, but that is actually Stephen Strange with an Iron Man armor from Savage Avengers #9 called the Iron Mage, and Savage Avengers Volume 1 is a must-read, so you can check that one out for yourself. I'm moving on. Number 6. Hal Jordan and the Spectre. This point also gets to be a bit of a 2-in-1, but this time we aren't looking at alternate universes. After the incredibly infamous destruction of Hal Jordan's home, Coast City, at the hands of Cyborg, Superman, and Mongol, Hal goes a little bit bonkers with his grief, leading to the Emerald Twilight story. Hal tries to create a hard-light construct of the entirety of Coast City and the people that he knew who perished living in it, using all the charge in his ring that he had to do so. The Guardians of the Universe scolded Hal for irresponsibly using his power for his own personal reasons and demanded he report for discipline. But, the Guardians were the ones who were responsible for Hal not being in Coast City to save it in the first place. So, Hal, all by his lonesome and absolutely insane, tore through 8 of the strongest lanterns, taking their rings. He obliterated Kilowog, snapped the neck of Sinestro, and then he took down all the Guardians, drained the central power battery, and destroyed the Green Lantern Corps, becoming, or being possessed by, Parallax. He became a universal threat, attempting to restart the universe, but was eventually defeated by the heroes and sacrificed himself. But following that, he eventually became the new host for the Spectre, becoming God's vengeance and one of the most powerful entities in DC Comics for a time. Number 5. The Herald of Thunder. In the 2020 volume of Thor, written by Donny Cates, Nick Klein, and Matt Wilson, the god of strength and thunder has finally become the new All-Father of Asgard. Yay! That on its own comes with a whole host of upgrades to his levels of power, but he does lose his arm and his eyes, so potential negatives there. Not too long after his ascension to the throne, Galactus comes in hot to Asgard, but not with the intention of devouring it like you might expect. Instead, the World Devourer is running from the universe-devouring Black Winter. This is the entity that destroyed the previous iteration of the universe and turned Galactus into its herald. So it's kind of a big deal. Galactus is freaked, and he has learned that Thor will be the cause of his own passing, so in order to keep the All-Father close, Thanos turns Thor into the Herald of Thunder, which returns his arm and his eye, grants him with the power cosmic a huge power boost, and gives him one of the most dope looks for Thor I have ever seen. Definitely my favorite. With this power, Thor was able to completely drain Galactus of his power he had gained eating 5 different planets, and drain the power cosmic from the World Devourer. Then he turned Galactus' body into a massive explosion that leveled the Black Winter to nothingness. Number 4. Wally West and the Mobius Chair. Wally West, as I have said a few times, is probably the most powerful person to be the Flash. He has a whole hell of a lot of feats to prove that, but he reached a whole new level when he first sat on the Mobius Chair. This artifact basically makes whoever is sitting in it completely omnipotent, basically meaning they know everything ever. But Wally isn't the first person to sit in the chair. Obviously there is Mobius, who the chair is named after, but during the Darkseid War in the New 52 Justice League, Batman sat in the chair as well, and it was hella cool. But this is more than that. When Wally sits in the chair, it has been imbued with the energy of Dr. Manhattan. After Wally's involvement in the accidental passing of the heroes at Sanctuary, he was recruited to seek redemption. He removed all the invading dark matter from the multiverse, and in an act to save his kids, he sat in the infused Mobius chair. So now, Wally West, possibly the fastest being to ever exist, gained almost limitless knowledge and gained the powers of Dr. Manhattan, who can create life and manipulate molecules. He used the power to help defeat the Batman Who Laughs in the death metal event. In at number 3 is King Thor and the Phoenix Force. Yes, we are jumping back to Thor, but this isn't Earth 616 Thor. This Thor comes from the alternate reality of Earth 14412. His past is pretty similar to the 616 version of Thor that we know, even becoming All-Father Thor after the War of the Realms event. But after that event, at some point in time, Thor leaves Asgard and joins Omnipotent City's Interdeity Justice Department, which means he becomes a cosmic god cop. That's so cool. Basically, he arrested gods who would go and fight other gods. He would also become a planet at one point, then he had an affair with a frost giant and had a baby half-giant son, who then had 3 daughters, making Thor a grandpappy. He then went back to being All-Father, which is when Loki schemed to cause the complete annihilation of life on Earth, turning Thor into a big old grump. He would eventually help defeat Gore the God Butcher, restore life to Earth, and then all the way at the end of time, he encountered Old Man Logan, who had the Phoenix Force, and in a battle with a ghost-riding, iron-fisted, star-branded Sorcerer Supreme Dr. Doom, Thor gained the Phoenix Force and fought Doom for 99 years before emerging victorious and going into the Forever Sleep. I hope that sounded as absurdly wild as it is, because it's just insane. Number 2, Venom and the King in Black. The King in Black is the cosmic divine ruler of the symbiotes, basically the god of symbiotes. The King in Black is the nexus of the symbiote hive mind. This means that King in Black can telepathically communicate with, dominate, and control all symbiotes in existence. Now previously, and for millions and millions of years, basically forever, the King in Black was an eldritch god of darkness called Null, and he was the one to first create the symbiotes out of the primordial void that existed before the universe was born. Well, he still got his butt kicked by a human. When Null finally attacked Earth, Eddie, Venom, and Eddie's son Dylan were crucial in the fight. The Venom symbiote broke free from Null's control and rebonded to Eddie and a new symbiote codex, incarnating as a gigantic version of Venom. On top of that, Eddie was resurrected by the god of light, Null's opposite, which transformed him into a cosmically powered version of Venom. Then, Eddie fused Mjolnir and the Silver Surfer's surfboard into a massive, insane battle axe and used it to easily overpower Null and fly him into the core of the sun. He then became the new King in Black. And finally, in at number 1, it's Wonder Woman. Wonder Woman seems to receive some of the most insane power boosts in DC Comics from time to time, or at least in their prime continuity she has been boosted to insane levels 3 separate times. Now for the purposes of time, I'm gonna tell you only about one of them, which marked Wonder Woman. When she was a child, Diana was marked by the goddess Hecate, the goddess of magic and witchcraft. This gave her a fraction of the goddess's powers, which lay dormant until the Witching War arc of Justice League Dark Volume 2, when it was activated by the Upside Down Man. Now with this power, Diana revived everyone who got killed by the arrival and actions of the Upside Down Man, meaning she brought back Constantine, Bobo, and Swamp Thing, who shouldn't be able to be revived, just so that we're on the same level here. Diana could easily rip literal holes in reality, open portals, move entire mountains with a thought, and the whole of reality shook when she took a step. Zatanna said that Wonder Woman's magical power was like anything she had ever seen or felt before. Now eventually this power grew even further, to the point that Diana was able to defeat the Upside Down Man, who is equal and opposite to Hecate in terms of power, and then she set everything back to the way it was supposed to be. And that's all I gotta say about that. Coming in at number 10 is the Sentry plus the Void. The Sentry and the Void are two sides of an incredibly powerful coin. Sentry is like a more powerful Superman, as controversial as that may be to say, but in order to balance him out, there is the dark side of the Sentry known as the Void, who is just as, if not more, powerful than the Sentry is. It keeps his character interesting and doesn't make him the center of everything in the Marvel Universe. Well, in Sentry 2018, issues 4 and 5, these two opposing sides of one man become whole, and it is absolutely insane. Apart from looking so incredibly cool, the whole Sentry was able to completely whoop the antagonist of the series, Billy, shapeshifting with black tendrils, withstanding energy blasts without a scratch, and altering reality in a small space to finally defeat his former sidekick. Then, the Avengers show up with She-Hulk, Captain Marvel, Thor, Iron Man, Captain America, and a whole hell of a lot of backup, and they can do nothing to him or to stop him. It didn't last forever, but it was an insane level of power contained inside one man. Number 9. Spider-Hulk. In the Immortal Hulk with Great Power story, Peter Parker is granted the alter ego of the Hulk after Loki magically transfers the Gamma power to him. So it's Spider-Man with all his relative spider powers mixed with the unstoppable green monstrosity of the Hulk, matched up with all the temperament of a toddler that comes with it. It's actually really cool, and there are tons of hilarious moments in the story. Eventually, the power of the Hulk is switched back to Banner with the help of the Fantastic Four and Banner's own genius. But it's a short little story that seems almost self-contained, but it's an insanely cool one, and a Spider-Hulk would be an incredibly powerful character if he were to show up again and had more time to hone his abilities and his temper tantrums. Number 8. Spider-Man and the Cosmic Comic. Sometimes Marvel will make a joke character or scenario, and it ends up creating a character more powerful than any other character possibly ever. In How to Read Comics the Marvel Way, issues 1 to 4, the comic itself becomes a character, and it starts off trying to teach the reader how exactly to read comic books. The comic follows Spider-Man in a conflict with Mysterio, who found the Cosmic Comic, the same one speaking to us, in the basement of the Natural History Museum. It allowed Mysterio to freeze Spider-Man in time in a comic panel, turn inanimate objects to life, and increase his size. Once Spider-Man gets his spider sense back, he realizes that the Cosmic Comic is influencing events, and he grabs the comic, thinking it's one of Mysterio's tricks, and tears it in half. After realizing the error of his ways here, Spider-Man and Mysterio begin trying to write their own comics to use the Cosmic Comic to make their comics become reality. That was confusing, and I'm sorry. Thanks to the Cosmic Comic, they end up fighting across time, altering history, and Peter learns of the fact that he is a comic book character. Seeing all of his comic book publication history, taking in all of this info, he then fuses together with the Cosmic Comic, basically meaning he can control reality within Marvel Comics, which I think is even technically more powerful than multiversal power. He prints the comic that he created, which has him save the day and win the battle, and it changes reality so that that's the outcome of the fight with Mysterio. It's nuts. Number 7. Strange Visitor Superman. Okay, before we start on this point, technically this Superman is not canon, but he is one of my favorite versions of the character, and he is truly one of the more powerful versions of the character as well. In the story, Superman outlives everything in the universe, living for literally billions and billions of years. He lives so long and gets so powerful that he gains new abilities like being able to split himself into 1,000 different copies that allow the hero to do what he does best throughout the universe. He outlives all the gods, cosmic entities, mortals, angels, demons, everything. He watches countless civilizations rise and fall and learns an insane amount of skills like telepathy. He absorbs ridiculous amounts of energy, learns magic and strange sciences through all his copies, and then reabsorbs them at the end of everything. He can fly faster than the entropic waves of the end of the universe and can manipulate the fabric of reality through sheer strength. Number 6. Gambit. Now this really isn't an upgrade as much as it's an example of what Gambit could potentially become. Gambit's main mutant power is that he can take the energy of an object and convert it into kinetic energy and make it explode, essentially. His signature move is to do this with a deck of cards, which is really cool, but on a side note, extremely impractical. Like, he must spend so much money on decks of cards. Anyways, around the time of the Mutant Massacre, Gambit had begun to lose control of his abilities, which led him to Mr. Sinister, who removed a part of Gambit's brain in order to keep his abilities controllable. With an ability that seemingly lets him manipulate kinetic energy, Gambit could have been stupidly powerful if that part of his brain was not removed, and we know that because of an alternate version of Gambit called New Sun, who has achieved the potential that Gambit could have reached. He can manipulate kinetic energy at a molecular level. He doesn't have to touch objects to charge them. He can use his ability on living beings. He can stop moving objects dead in their tracks or cause objects that aren't moving to begin moving. He can turn himself into pure energy that lets him travel into space and other dimensions. New Sun was able to defeat Dark Phoenix, and he ended up destroying everyone on his own Earth. Now when New Sun confronts the 616 Gambit, 616 Gambit had restored his powers, and it allowed him to fly, heal himself, and even defeat New Sun. It's so cool, and it doesn't really get to that level ever again. Number 5. Wonder Woman. Again, gifted with the powers of the gods, Wonder Woman has many of the same abilities Superman possesses, including strength, speed, and durability. However, Wonder Woman's Amazonian training sets her a little apart as an amazing warrior. It's been debated for years whether Diana could beat Superman in a fight, and while she's shown to be capable of hurting him at least, she doesn't have the same raw power. Instead, Wonder Woman dominates her opponents through a combination of her special abilities, superior tactics, and special equipment gifted to her by the gods, but she has been elevated beyond that. When Diana was empowered with the World Forge and the anti-crisis energy at the end of Doom War / during Death Metal, she had enough power to shake stars and phase throughout time through sheer strength. She had displayed the ability to shrink an entire planet and was able to link everyone together and restored their memories as one history, as in all of DC's continuity. She has cosmic awareness, able to see multiple events during the war against the Batman Who Laughs at once, as well as precognition and retrocognition. She was crazy powerful for that short amount of time. Number 4. Dark Crisis Superman. During the events of DC's Dark Crisis event, the main players of the Justice League were wiped out. While everyone assumed that they were gone to their graves, what actually happened is that each member was trapped in their own little pocket reality. Batman, Hal Jordan Green Lantern, Barry Allen the Flash, and Wonder Woman were living in realities created by their own wishes and desires, and weren't really aware of what was happening, except for Batman because he's Batman, and Superman. When the other members of the League who escaped their pocket realities come to free Superman, he is fully aware of the nature of his pocket reality, and the already insanely powerful Man of Steel has become massively more powerful. Superman had tried to escape this reality countless times, but he always failed, so instead of putting that effort into escaping, he put his efforts into training himself and absorbing the cosmic energy of the pocket reality itself. He basically became what is basically a cosmically powered god and used that power to defeat the villain. Number 3. Emma Frost Lifebringer. In the alternate reality given to us in Marvel 2-in-1 from 2018, instead of Reed Richards and the Fantastic Four saving our world from Galactus, it was actually Dr. Doom who did it, and in true Doom fashion, he saved the world in a pretty evil way to ensure he would be powered up in the process. Although, I don't believe that was what he was trying to do, but you know, whatever. Instead of trying to destroy Galactus, Doom used a transference device to take over the World Devourer's body. The catch is that Dr. Doom was now driven by the same hunger that Galactus had, and he ate every single planet in the universe, leaving Earth as the only planet left in the cosmos. Galactus gains more power as he consumes planets, so as you can imagine, this Doom Galactus hybrid who consumed the universe is incredibly powerful and incredibly hard to fight against when he turns his hunger back on the Earth. A whole group of heroes band together to save the Earth, but it's Emma Frost who makes the greatest sacrifice. Using another transference device, Frost transfers herself into Galactus, kicking out Doom, but also rewriting the core of Galactus's being, and instead of devouring worlds, she sets out to restore the universe back to the way it should be with the immense cosmic power of Emma Frost, Galactus Lifebringer. Number 2. Chaos King Hercules. The Chaos King is a little bit glossed over when talking about incredibly powerful villains, and I think that's because the story was focused around Hercules. Hercules is a cool character, but from what I know, he hasn't ever really received the same kind of popularity as other characters in Marvel, especially with the character of Thor, who is similar, being godly in nature and incredibly strong, but also just a bit, kind of a lot cooler. But the Chaos Wars story was insanely cool. Basically, the Chaos King, a universal entity of darkness, was able to defeat the gods of every pantheon and absorb their combined power. He also was powered by the souls of every being who had ever passed away in the whole universe from the beginning of time. He was extremely close to completely wiping out everything in the universe. In order to fight the Chaos King, Hercules gets himself imbued by the power of the elder god Gaia, and becomes an absolutely insanely powerful god of gods. He could teleport, fly, and emit energy blasts from his hands and eyes. He caused massive shockwaves and craters with every step he took. He very easily destroyed not only a Chaos King powered and controlled Zeus and Athena with one hit each, but the entire Council of Godheads itself as well. He summoned Galactus and the cosmic entity Eternity to fight for him against their will. He matched the Chaos King blow for blow at a size larger than a planet, and once the threat was gone, he restored every destroyed planet, realm, every being, entity, and god, and then he lost the power. And coming in finally at number 1 is Moon Knight. While Moon Knight is normally a regular old street level hero, the nature of his abilities, being the avatar of the Egyptian god Khonshu, means that he does have the potential to become ridiculously overpowered, which he does in the Age of Khonshu event. During this event, thanks to a supermoon, the normally relatively low-powered Moon Knight defeats the Iron Fist Danny Rand and uses an Ankh to steal his Iron Fist powers, which he then takes to the Sanctum Sanctorum and punches Doctor Strange using another Ankh to steal the power of the Eye of Agamotto. He then steals the car of Robbie Reyes' Ghost Rider, which he takes to Wakanda alongside an army of the dead to take the powers of Black Panther, which fails, but then he ends up facing Thor, steals his hammer Mjolnir, beats the snot out of Thor, and since Khonshu is the god of the moon, he summons a bunch of moons from different places in space and traps Thor between these giant celestial bodies. Now, the whole reason Moon Knight is doing any of this is because Khonshu told him to in order to defeat Mephisto in order to save the world, which Moon Knight easily does using an amped up Mjolnir to rip a hole through the Hell Lord. Unfortunately, Moon Knight is kind of forced to do the bidding of Khonshu, who now takes the power and uses it to essentially conquer the world. Since Moon Knight is a hero though, he eventually gets himself empowered by the Phoenix Force in order to face and defeat Khonshu himself. It was an insane story, and he even considered completely wiping out humanity at the end, but luckily did not.
At number 10, we've got Aquaman. Looking specifically at the redesigns that occurred between the Super Friends era and the 90s look. There's no arguing that the Super Friends look is pretty corny. Some would say that any redesign would have made it better, but what went into making Aquaman go from looking like this to looking like this was a decision that not only changed the way we saw Aquaman, but how we knew him as well. Firstly, the original look has him extremely clean looking, like he's been untouched by any battle, which we all know isn't true. And maybe that's just how superheroes were illustrated back then. But the 90s look has him with a harpoon for a hand, no shirt, and this sweet metal chest piece that just makes him look like he's really from the depths of the ocean. His trident also has a major redesign here that gives a more menacing look, like it's really designed to do real damage. And maybe it's not quite part of the costume, but the long hair and beard just seem like the right choice for Aquaman that should have been a thing from day one maybe. But maybe that's just me.
Number 9. The Hulk. Now, this isn't exactly a redesign, and I'll give you that. It's more like a mistake. It's a mistake that led to one of the most iconic characters for Marvel. When the Incredible Hulk first appeared in Marvel Comics, his skin was actually a gray color to keep him indistinguishable from any real-world race, as Stan Lee wanted. But an issue with the colorist's ink actually led to the character coming out looking green, which, I mean, you still get the desired effect. Stan actually ended up liking the green more, and they stuck with it. Good call, Stan the Man. We miss you. Narratively, they even gave a reason for this. At first saying it was prolonged gamma exposure, and later saying that Grey Hulk was an alternate personality version of the Hulk.
At number 8, we have Wolverine. Wolverine's costume has had many changes over the years, but the change from the original yellow look is a significant design choice in the right direction. The thing is, Wolverine looks pretty cool in the original X-Men uniform, but something about this darker look feels like it complements his personality more. The red eyes and the black-gray tones in this outfit are so cool and much more menacing than the classic yellow tiger stripe design, which reflects what X-Force stands for as well. X-Force is a mutant organization put together by Wolverine himself, which applies lethal force if the mission calls for it. It makes sense that Wolverine would be behind something like this because of his inherent Machiavellian outlook on life. This character has lived for so long and through so much that his jadedness has become a staple to who he is. And this redesign just strikes me as being a more accurate portrayal of who Logan is behind the costume.
Number 7. Drax the Destroyer. Thanks to the MCU, it's really hard to think of Drax the Destroyer in any other way. But the MCU's depiction actually borrows from the redesign of Drax from 2004. For this though, Drax here was, well, he had a cape. Capes are cool, no doubt, but I mean, he's just so much better now. Take a look at his design when he was first introduced in the 1970s. Bright green skin with a very comic booky purple costume. It was unique, I'll give you that, but as the rival to the Mad Titan Thanos, it's just nowhere near as imposing and intimidating as it should be. The 2004 design with the pale green skin, red tattoos, and knives evoke the kind of strength and power that comes from the title of the Destroyer.
At number 6, we have the Flash. Looking at the Jay Garrick Golden Age Flash, we can all agree that there was room for improvement. Need I mention the elephant in the room? The silly hat? Okay, I know it has sentimental value, having been his father's World War I helmet, but it just doesn't look very cool. I'm sorry. And he would use it as a weapon by throwing it at bad guys? Anyway, I'm just roasting him now. But when Barry Allen is introduced in 1956 with a new outfit, it seems like it was always meant to be that way. His helmet is replaced with a mask, and the little lightning bolts stick around, which we're happy to see. This costume then basically remains untouched until today, having undergone a few redesigns that didn't really stick, like Kid Flash, which, I don't know. It doesn't do it for me. And the John Fox look, which once again, I don't know if it's the right decision for the character. I think the best place the design has found itself is Wally West's costume, which just gives the character a sleek look with lots of integrity.
Number 5. Lobo. Okay, before you jump on me in the comments saying he's a villain, he's more of an anti-hero, okay? When Lobo first appeared in DC Comics, he looked like poo. You were more likely to laugh than to think he had any kind of strength going for him. He had an orange and light purple skin-tight suit for Pete's sake. But when he reappeared with his biker motif, it just made sense. Ripped jeans, leather gloves and a vest. With all his craziness, foul language, weapons, and spiked hair, he needed the rest of him to match. And I think we can all agree his iconic hook was definitely a worthwhile addition. Let's just forget about his newest New 52 redesign though.
No. At number 4, we have Iron Man. This is one of the biggest redesigns on the list, and for good reason. The old Iron Man is made to look like he's literally wearing a big suit of armor that Tony Stark would crudely bolt himself into. But over time, with the way that the character's abilities become more advanced, so does the costume. It gets sleeker, more form-fitting, and the colors are toned down a bit, making for a more realistic look, tonally. Something I noticed that's a real eyesore from the original look is the design of the face. The original eye holes and mouth make Iron Man look kind of soulless, like there isn't even a person in the costume. And sometimes that was actually the case, but as Tony Stark's storyline is refined, it seems as though his costume gets less and less blocky as well. And this wasn't only the case for Iron Man, it was arguably the case for every other hero in this list and beyond. With comic books getting more legitimized over time, the depth of all the characters expanded, allowing for cooler, less fantastical designs that you might actually be able to imagine seeing in the real world.
Number 3. Spider-Man. This is an arguable point. Spider-Man's red and blue classic suit is extremely iconic, and I don't think anyone thinks it's bad. The Sam Raimi version of that suit is beautiful. But if you tell me that you dislike the Black Venom symbiote or the Black Cloth version of this suit, 1, you're a liar, and 2, we can't be friends. This suit was actually designed by a guy called Randy Schuler for a contest Marvel had, and they paid him $220 for it. I'm not sure how that compares to today, inflation-wise, but that $220 bought the Spider-Man's greatest designs outside the original. So great, they even came up with excuses for him to wear it after getting rid of the symbiote version of it.
Okay, at number 2 we have the Batman costume designs from the movies. This is a big one that I think a lot of people agree with. Looking at his original look from the 1966 Batman TV show and the redesigns that took place to get to Christopher Nolan's designs for The Dark Knight, it's clear to anyone that these were major steps in the right direction. Although the original look was probably meant to be a bit goofy, it still could have looked a little less like pajamas and still gotten the feeling across. This is an important transformation to analyze because Batman's original outfit speaks to how seriously comic books were being taken back in the 60s, and that was not very seriously. Honestly, Adam West looks like he pulled a $10 Batman costume off the secondhand shelf at a Halloween store in November. I mean, it barely looks like the cowl fit him. And then when we were blessed with the Dark Knight trilogy back in 2005, we were reminded that these days, Batman is a serious character that deserves a serious look. His suit got darker, more slick, and it finally looked like real armor, which makes sense for the subject matter, which has, over the years, gotten much more gruesome and violent. This was an essential redesign that demonstrates not only how far Batman has come as a character, but how far comic books have come as well. And the massive success of the Nolan trilogy suggests that people were ready for that change.
Number 1. Carol Danvers. The original Carol Danvers Miss Marvel costume is so incredibly different from her redesign as Captain Marvel that you'd be forgiven for thinking they were different people at first. Her Miss Marvel costume was characterized by a black leotard with a big yellow lightning bolt, bare legs, and black boots and gloves. While being an iconic costume, knowing what we know of her backstory and looking at the tone and personality of her character, it didn't seem right for Carol Danvers. When she jumped on the scene with her red and blue pilot-esque Captain Marvel uniform with the shorter hair and the star emblem, she exudes the confidence and strength that her character demands. She even still kept the red sash belt thing, which was probably my favorite part of her costume. This is the suit that inspired her MCU costume with not a single trace or mention of her Miss Marvel suit. It is also the suit that almost everyone has gotten to know her by and has completely revamped and reimagined her character. Number 10. Superman. This version of Superman, the one in the Kingdom Come story by Mark Waid, with art by Alex Ross and Mike Carlin, is set in an alternate reality, Earth 22. Meaning it isn't a baseline redesign for the character. For that matter, it isn't even a complete overhaul of Superman's costume. The only difference they made to the costume was that Clark's hair had silver streaks to show his age, and the yellow parts of his emblem were changed to black. Otherwise, his costume was a very classic Superman getup. But those two little changes, plus just the overall style of the art itself, did something to this Superman that for me, it just makes me tingle, you know? Number 9. Daredevil. When Daredevil first came on the scene in 1964, his look was different from the one most readers are used to. Instead of his normal color scheme, Daredevil instead had a predominantly yellow suit, with only parts of the suit being the familiar red color. Now, in my humble opinion, the yellow and red suit has its own perks. The overall design of the suit is fairly similar to what would come later. But I will agree that when he showed up in Daredevil number 7 with the all-red suit, courtesy of artist Wally Wood, it was an instant stick. It was more in keeping with the darker, brooding, street-level nature of his stories. And it stuck for, well, pretty much the rest of his publication. Hey guys, before we go on, I just want to say a quick little thanks for watching. I also want to say thanks for those of you that leave comments below. I read a lot of them, and you guys always have interesting and helpful things to say. So thanks. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and I won't forget to get on with this video. Number 8. The Punisher logo. Okay. I want to talk about this one for a couple of reasons, but let's just say it. Straight up, it's controversial, which always makes for a good discussion. Basically, the classic Punisher logo that has been around since the 70s got a bit of a redesign this year. Punisher has joined the Hand, and in doing so, he has changed his logo to resemble that of an Oni. There's also reason to believe that the symbol may reflect his status within the organization. Unfortunately, there is also a real-world political reason for the change. The logo itself was being adopted by real-world police officers, which is kind of odd considering Punisher is pretty anti-authority, and was even worn by some of those who were involved in the Capitol riots, leading Marvel to make a politically motivated change. Love it or hate it, it is the new look for the character right now. I'm not totally opposed to it, but I know at least a few of you guys out there are a little upset. Let me know what you think below. Number 7. X-Men. I don't know if you know what the original costumes of the X-Men looked like back in the day. Yellow and dark navy blue with yellow and black boots and gloves. Except for Beast, who is still vaguely human and didn't wear boots or gloves, and Iceman, who was more like Snowman. The matching costumes definitely show that this was a team, even with their different and unique mutant abilities. There have been many iterations of X-Men costumes since, but for me, when the characters themselves got their own individual costumes in issue 39 of the comic, that's when they really came into their own. The leader of the team, Cyclops, has generally used this look and variations on this look ever since. Mostly. The other members took a bit more time to find iconic looks, namely Angel and Beast, who eventually got his blue fur. Number 6. Star-Lord. When Star-Lord showed up in Marvel Preview number 4, he was a far cry away from what most fans have come to recognize him as. I think he kinda looks a lot like Owlman from the Watchmen comics, to be honest, but even Peter's personality was much different. The tagline on the comic was, "He stalks the galaxy, one man, on a mission of cosmic vengeance." That doesn't sound like the typical wisecracking, sarcastic young hero we know today. Even before Chris Pratt took on the character, Star-Lord was revamped in the 2006 and 2007 Annihilation event, where he formed the Guardians of the Galaxy and got an incredible new costume change, ditching the more cowl-like headpiece for a full helmet and the skin-tight outfit for a more loose-fitting uniform. It just gives his character a much more distinctive look, in my opinion. Number 5. Green Lantern. Technically, this point can be argued with. This isn't so much a redesign as a wholly different character, but ask anyone who isn't deeply knowledgeable of the comics who the original Green Lantern is, and you're likely to hear them say Hal Jordan. Now, I'm just guessing here, but I think that has a lot to do with the fact that Hal Jordan's look, compared to the one of Alan Scott, is just so much more iconic. Alan Scott sported a black cape with a red collared top, green pants, and a sweet normal looking belt. Sure, he is a different character and not technically an official Green Lantern, but when Hal Jordan came in with a green and black suit with hints of white, it just stuck. Let's just not talk about the movie version, okay? Number 4. Robin, Damian Wayne. We talked about Batman in the last video, so it's only fair we talk about his ward. Specifically, I want to talk about the costume of the newest Robin, and Batman's son, Damian Wayne. If we go back in time and look at the classic original Robin's costume, well, let's just say it kinda goes with the costume of the Caped Crusader at the time. In other words, it's incredibly impractical. I'm also thinking the bare legs wouldn't bode too well in the streets of Gotham, but that's just me. The costume was evolved over the years for sure, but the one that Damian wears when he appears as Robin in 2006, it's just like, ooh, I like it. You know, it's kind of hard to get specific on what makes this one so much better, I'll be honest. But if we just slap up some comparison pics, I mean, it's just better. Number 3. Ultimate's Hawkeye. The Ultimate Universe in Marvel sees a lot of changes to character designs that honestly kind of reflect the MCU looks just a little bit. Overall, I think the outfits are improvements on the originals. I want to give a big nod to Ultimate Thor. But I think the best of the character overhauls would have to be Hawkeye's Ultimate Universe costume. The black vest, the crew cut, and the red glasses make him look even more like a secret agent, which he is. It's also a bit edgier and darker than his 616 counterpart, which most of the Ultimates are, considering the comics were aimed at teens. Fight me in the comments, but I definitely prefer this costume. Number 2. Batgirl. Batgirl first appeared in Detective Comics 359, sporting an all-black costume with a yellow bat symbol, belt, boots, and gloves. Personally, I didn't have much of a problem with this look. I thought it was simple, for sure, and quite basic. Just like the other members of the Bat family, Barbara Gordon also got a ton of redesigns through the years. But in 2014, when she got a redesign thanks to artists Cameron Stewart, Brendan Fletcher, and Babs Tarr, the new look, much like Damian's Robin suit, just made more sense. The costume was much more practical. More of a jacket kind of design with a removable cape. The belt was more casual, more like a holster design. Her design had much more personality too this way, which really works for the character herself, who also has a strong personality. Number 1. Nightwing. Nightwing first appeared after leaving the Bat family in Tales of the Teen Titans Volume 1, number 44, and his costume was, honestly, not too bad. It was goofy for sure. Don't get me started on the collar, but with those gold wing designs, it was pretty cool. I'd be a fool though if I didn't say that the blue V costume that debuted in 1996 is the best suit that character has ever worn, if we don't take into account his newest DC Rebirth suit, which is basically just a slightly updated version of this one. The simple blue bird across the chest and into the arms, mixed with the rest of the suit being black, yeah, it's a simpler look, but one that ultimately works better than any other. Number 10. Nova. Alright, starting off our little list today is going to actually be more of a different version of a character of the same name rather than a redesign. There have been multiple Nova Primes throughout the history of the universe. Richard Rider is absolutely the main one, and he is fantastic. I absolutely adore his Nova Prime costume. But when we first saw Samuel Alexander in Point One, Number 1 in 2011 sporting the black Nova helmet, I'm sorry, it just did something special for me. I really enjoy it. Granted, being a younger, more slender guy, he doesn't exude the same kind of power that Richard Rider does. But that doesn't make him any less powerful, and it doesn't make his costume any less impressive. Also, Disney, if you're listening, let me play Samuel Alexander, please. I want to wear his costume. Thank you. Number 9. Beast. We mentioned in the last video the way the X-Men uniforms were all essentially variations of the same costume. Hank McCoy was a shorter, stocky guy. He had huge hands and feet, and his original costume didn't even have gloves or boots, which helped him to stand out even more. Hank was the bruiser on the team for sure, with his mutations being strength and agility. But while he may have been a somewhat odd-looking guy, he was still fairly human-looking. That is, until Amazing Adventures number 11 in 1972. Hank got a job at Roxxon, basically, where he developed a serum that acted as a catalyst for activating latent mutations for short periods of time, and then he drank it. The effects of this serum ended up making Hank grow gray fur. His muscles expanded, his ears became large and pointed, he got claws, and his canine teeth grew and became fangs. The serum further increased his superhuman agility, endurance, speed, and strength, as well as enhancing his senses. In Amazing Adventures 14, his fur would become blue thanks to Quasimodo, and he's been the same ever since. Whoa, slow your roll there. I gotta talk about how great you are. Every time you like and subscribe, it sends a ripple through the YouTube algorithm that makes this channel look just a bit more attractive. So thanks for doing that. Don't forget to check us out on Facebook as well. And I'll carry on making this video. Number 8, Scarlet Witch. Now, I don't know if everyone's seen the WandaVision show, but it's definitely one you should check out if you are a Marvel fan. One of the best parts, at least for me, was seeing Wanda Maximoff get a new look. A look that pays homage to the origins of the character, but embraces a modern design, and just makes her look like a total badass. Which I think most of the fans out there have really been craving. Her powers in the MCU haven't always been all that they potentially could be, even though she outclasses almost every other hero in the MCU. But moving forward, I think we are definitely starting to see her break out of the shell, and this costume really embodies that. I am so excited to see her in the Multiverse of Madness. She is gonna be sick. Number 7, Deathstroke. We always gotta include at least one morally ambiguous character on these lists. But at least this time, it's when he was actually acting as a hero. When Deathstroke was the leader of a superhero team, Defiance, he wore an awesome black and white costume. But not only did this costume change up his color scheme, he actually got a cape. Edna Mode would not approve. His black and orange color scheme is definitely a classic, and I'm not necessarily saying this is better, but I mean it comes extremely close. It's better. And the story it belongs to is such a good one. Check it out. Number 6, Superman's black costume. Alright, here we go. Look, he may have a mullet, but Superman in a black costume? I mean, come on. After the Man of Steel was resurrected in Superman Volume 2, number 81 after his death at the hands of Doomsday, he came back with an all-black costume with silver symbol and wrist gauntlet type things. I don't know about you guys, and I know a lot of people hate that mullet, but you put any hero in black compared to their usual color scheme, and I'm here for it. The costume would get a revamp in the Justice League live-action movie when Henry Cavill comes back to life, and it looked even better there. It may not have lasted too long, but I think this costume has a definite place in my favorite alternate superhero costumes. Number 5, Monica Rambeau. When Monica Rambeau showed up in her costume in Amazing Spider-Man Annual number 16, it was a statement. I liked it, honestly. It was simple and unique. I don't really like the underarm wing things, they were kind of weird, but ultimately it worked for the time. She has been around for a long time, being part of the Avengers, Next Wave, and the Ultimates. But it was in the Next Wave number 1 where I think she got the best addition to her costume. All it took was a coat, and she instantly became so much cooler. The color of her under costume changed a bit, which it consistently does, but the jacket has now become a staple, and every time she's wearing it, I am swooning. Number 4, Red Hood. When Jason Todd was killed by the Joker in Death of the Family, it was a huge thing. It was heartbreaking, it was brutal, it was visceral. 6 months after his death though, he was resurrected, and he was restored by Talia al Ghul in the Lazarus Pits. He would join and be trained by the League of Assassins, eventually leaving to pursue justice, although a bit more brutally than before. Entered the Red Hood, and an absolutely awesome new costume. Inspired by the original Red Hood costume worn by Joker, Jason's Red Hood costume is so much better. It's menacing and tactical and badass. I think I have a thing for jackets because, again, I love the frickin' jacket. Number 3, Batgirl Cassandra Cain. Okay, look, we talked about Batgirl in the last point, but we were talking about Barbara. If we want to get really into Batgirl designs that will knock your socks off, we don't have to look any farther than Cassandra Cain. Cassandra is the 4th Batgirl, and she is the daughter of David Cain and Lady Shiva, two assassins who raised and trained Cassandra to become the perfect warrior. She became the new Batgirl in Batman No Man's Land, and let me just say, if I was walking the streets of Gotham and I saw someone dressed like this, I would just move, like to a different city. It's so fitting for her, it's intimidating, it's intense, and if I was a criminal, it would give me nightmares. Number 2, Blade. When Blade first appeared in Tomb of Dracula number 10, he had an interesting costume choice. Blade sported a collared jacket with a bandolier, armed with stakes, riding boots, and let's not forget the super sweet yellow glasses. More of like a cool pirate with yellow goggles than a vampire hunter. He would have different variations of the costume. One that was actually pretty good was when he wore green goggles, a purple jacket and matching boots, green trousers, and a yellow belt. But in Night Stalkers number 1 in the 90s, he finally showed up in the leather, sporting a leather jacket, all black clothing with the katanas. Of course, this was born out of the 90s, but it stuck. It has evolved over the years, but the key things introduced have stayed. The leather. The leather stuck. Number 1. Storm. The X-Men Storm is one of the coolest looking characters in Marvel Comics, for me. And that fact only gets reinforced in the Marvel Dark Ages number 4, when she shows up in a Wakandan-inspired gold and silver costume. It is absolutely stunning. Storm herself is an extremely fashion-heavy member of the X-Men. She changes up her look often, and it's usually in unique and awesome ways. Like, I really liked when she had the mohawk. But this Wakanda costume just takes the absolute cake for me. It calls back to her original costume from the second Genesis X-Men, but it's regal as hell, which it should be when she's the Queen of Wakanda. The designs are amazing, and if I saw her show up like this, I'd believe she was a goddess too.
Number 10, Loki. Loki has shifted so much in comics. He's technically a different character from that original Loki that first appeared in Venus issue number 6 and again in Journey into Mystery issue number 85. Loki's look originally was pretty silly, especially if we're talking about trying to adapt that look to the big screen and make it look menacing. We do get a version of that sort of original costume in the Loki series when we see an older, bitter, and sadder Loki who actually more reflects that original costume and that original Loki. Loki now appears to look much cooler in the comics and is also much more versatile when it comes to their style. This has also translated to the big screen, where Tom Hiddleston's Loki has also gotten more and more dapper and stylish as time has gone on as well. At least that's how I see it. Number 9, Harley Quinn. I know people love the original costume, so this might be like kind of a hot take, but I personally think Harley has had so many amazing costumes and looks over the years that have just improved on what was already, well, good. I'm not saying the original costume was bad, to be clear. So yeah, I'm not saying the original costume that she had was at the level of some of the other ones on our list, Loki, being too much, you know, or too ridiculous, but I am saying that I think her design has only really improved with time. It's a compliment, Harley. Take it. Of course, not all of her looks have been winners in comparison to that original look, but I do think that her current outfit has definitely been one of her best that we've seen so far. And then of course there is her whole Birds of Prey looks, which I loved, and her The Suicide Squad DCEU look, which seems to have been inspired by more modern Harley Quinn comics and video game designs. And to be clear, we're talking about James Gunn's The Suicide Squad, not Suicide Squad. Not David Ayer's Suicide Squad. Those are two very different looks, are they not? And friends, before we move on to this next spot, if you are loving this list and you want to hear about some more cool supervillain redesigns that we love, be sure to let us know by giving this video a thumbs up. Number 8, the Joker. The Joker is another character who has come a long way when it comes to his different looks. While his iconic face paint has remained, he's had many different outfits over the years, and many different iconic pieces that we would identify as being part of his costume. Purple and green remain the Joker's colors, but instead of wearing a suit with like a ribbon looking tie that kind of reminds me of something like a child would wear, like a kid in the olden days, or some kind of like floppy bolo tie, he is typically seen more in a trench coat that happens to be purple. Also, if anyone knows what that tie is called, it's like a little bow, but it's like a string. Let me know in the comments. I don't know what that's called. I do not know. The Joker looks less ridiculous and more menacing in modern comics, with the pranks of his earlier days also getting twisted along with his appearance. In more modern comic book tales, Joker has also been particularly terrifying, at one point having removed his face and stapled it back on in Death of the Family in 2011, and at another point sporting his own intimidating Joker-inspired batsuit during Joker War in 2020. Both of these are great looks, but very different looks. Number 7. Toad. Toad has also had a lot of different looks throughout the years, with his original one being the most ridiculous. And also fitting, but also so ridiculous. But I'd say the real cool thing about Toad is that a lot of the time his outfits actually really reflect how he's feeling inside and his evolution as a character. This is why at first it's really no surprise that Toad basically is dressed up as a court jester in his first appearances. At that time that was basically what he was, acting as Magneto's often disappointing goon who wanted nothing more than to please his master, but usually kind of failed at doing so. Toad? As time went on, Toad would come to realize that he didn't actually need to settle for Magneto's mistreatment of him, and that he was no longer really indebted to Magneto. In various depictions of the character, he'd become somewhat more independent, and sometimes a lot more Toad-like in terms of his design. Fox X-Men movies, I'm looking at you. And in terms of his roles, he also even went from being a villain at Magneto's side in the comics to kind of a weird ally of the X-Men when he became the school janitor in Wolverine and the X-Men. Remember when that happened? He also at one point got a flaming tongue. So he's changed a lot. I don't know if I'm as here for the weird green flaming tongue, but I definitely feel like his look is a lot better now than it was before. Also like that he's kinda like a hacker now. I think that's cool. Number 6. The Riddler. The Riddler originally looked Jim Carrey levels of Riddler ridiculous when he first appeared in Detective Comics issue 140. And that's not a slight to Jim Carrey, by the way. I still love that version of the Riddler. Just also a side note, when I call things ridiculous or weird, it's not necessarily an insult coming from me. And while I do have respect for the Riddler's original question mark suit, I don't think it's necessary for him to be covered in question marks so that we know he's the Riddler. He likes riddles. We get it. Riddler has had a ton of redesign since that first appearance, with a good number of his modern takes being much improved on in comparison. Okay, so not all of the modern takes on the Riddler have been great. See Riddler with his hair shaved into a question mark shaped green mohawk. That was a weird time, but overall I think we can say we've seen a marked improvement. I also do love the recent redesign with Paul Dano playing the Riddler in the Batman film. I feel like this design for the character was definitely one of the most terrifying looks for him yet, and also fit really well with his origin and his backstory, and just with the overall tone of that film, which takes inspiration from the comics but very much grounds the character of the Riddler in reality, giving him more power as well in the process. I think. Like when you make it just not about like silly riddles and you make it about like what is the Riddler and why are there riddles and what is this really about? I mean, it's a powerful character. Number 5. Cheetah. I mean, the Cheetah outfit has changed a lot since her first appearance, and so has the character. The first Cheetah villain we were ever introduced to in the pages of 1943's Wonder Woman issue number 6 is no longer the Cheetah we have in comics. Literally. Much has changed about the character, including her identity, her origin, and her overall look and power set. The original Cheetah was Priscilla Rich, a jealous debutante who dressed up in a skin-tight cheetah onesie. It's a look, I gotta say. Now we have Barbara Minerva as the main cheetah, who instead of dressing up actually has a humanoid cheetah form, having been transformed basically by a god. Very different looks and takes on this character, but I definitely say that Minerva's is better overall. Sorry Priscilla, it's just cooler. Like, I mean, then you get to actually kind of fight like a cheetah lady, as opposed to just a lady in a cheetah costume. Number 4. Crime Syndicate. The Crime Syndicate have always been cool, but over the years their looks have gotten a lot more detailed, badass, and in some cases, a lot hotter. I'm here for the sexy Crime Syndicate, I must say. I'm feeling it. The Crime Syndicate are actually one of the earliest villain teams to take on the Justice League, making their first appearance in 1964 in Justice League of America issue number 29. At least the earlier continuity version of that team, that is. Because this is DC we're talking about here, so you know, now we're on Prime Earth and that was before that, but anyways. Back then their outfits were less sleek and more blocky, such was the time. They were also a lot less sexy back then overall as a team, and had a lot less independent flair, with their looks being just a little bit more rough and Basically, similar adaptations of the team members that they were mirroring. I mean, Owlman literally has Batman's look from like the neck down almost exactly, with only the Stark owl on his head setting him apart. It's a look. Number 3, Kang the Conqueror. Okay, so Kang still looks pretty crazy, even in the comics, but he's come a long way from that wild purple and green eyesore when it comes to his cinematic appearance at least. We saw our first, likely of many, Kangs in the Disney Plus streaming series Loki. Here Kang was played by the amazing Jonathan Majors, and instead of sporting his very blue face and purple helmet, he was dressed simply in a nice purple robe with green tunic, pants, and sandals underneath. A nice nod to the original design while still providing its own unique take on his look, and a take that is quite a bit more sensible and stylish. Still, an air of flamboyance in how he's dressed, but not so over the top that it undermines how intense, inevitable, and intimidating He Who Remains, aka an alternate Kang, appears to be here. Number 2, Lex Luthor. Lex looks a lot cooler and a lot more dapper in modern comics than his original appearance. Remember when he used to wear a purple suit with green pants? What is it with villains in purple and green? Especially over at DC. What's going on over there? It's kind of a very shocking combo of colors, especially for someone like Lex. Although I will admit, put it into a mech type suit, gloss it up a bit, and it works a little better for me. I do like it. Lex used to wear this purple suit with straps crossed over it, and a very Dracula-esque high collar with bright green pants and purple boots. Fortunately, he now more keeps to suit and tie looks, looking a lot more polished and refined, and occasionally mixes in some badass mechanical armor, which makes him look a lot more intimidating than that collar ever did. Number 1, Killmonger. Talk about villains who have seen an upgrade. In Jungle Action issue number 6, we got our first look at Killmonger. I don't even think you'd recognize him today if your main experience with this character came from the Marvel Cinematic Universe film Black Panther and Michael B. Jordan's portrayal of him. The original look for Killmonger involved a lot of spikes, as opposed to a lot of horrifying scars. He didn't initially mark himself for his kills, instead, he was just really pointy. He also wore white pants and a red sash, with no shirt initially. We've come a long way since then, with Killmonger having even been to space and back, where he ruled over the Wakandan space empire. And thankfully his look has changed quite a lot since then. I'm partial to his symbiote look personally, still a little spiky, but you know, it doesn't overdo it. Nothing wrong with a little bit of spikes, you just don't want to have too many.
At number 10, we have Steel. The origins of this hero are very wholesome, with Dr. John Henry finding motivation to become the newest version of Superman after trying to save the Kryptonian from Doomsday. And when he completes his mission, he ends up with one of the most powerful armors out of any comic book superhero ever. After showing his potential as a superhero with a massive sledgehammer and the courage to face Doomsday himself, John takes it upon himself to craft a fully protective supersuit and go by the name of Steel. On top of the offensive capabilities that his smart hammer offers, his suit brings to the table all the defensive stats he could ever need, as well as the mobility of a flying superhero due to the rocket boots attached to the armor as well. It's an all-around impressive piece of armor and endows Steel with enough protection to withstand attacks from the likes of the Eradicator as he tries to live up to one of the most coveted symbols to ever be worn on a superhero's chest. At number 9, we have the Rocket Red armor. Referring to the armor given to the Rocket Red Brigade members during the Green Lantern Corps comics, this dynamic armor deserves a spot on this list even if it comes as a bit obscure to some fans. This army of Soviet heroes are equipped with some of the most impressive armor out of any superhero. Aside from giving the wearer flight capabilities and upgraded defensive stats, the suits are even known to, in some cases, present a special mecha sense, meaning that the suit can influence other machines and take control of their movements for a time. Now, one Rocket Red suit is nothing compared to the Iron Man armor, which we'll of course be exploring later, but the fact that these suits seem to be mass produced and are easy enough to navigate, the suit gets a major power boost, especially given that multiple Rocket Red soldiers seem to be able to work them with what appears to be total ease. At number 8 is the Blue Beetle armor. This hyper-adaptive and seemingly sentient armor proves that sometimes the suit really does make the man. or whatever the saying is. And in this case, I'm referring to Jamie Ray's Blue Beetle armor, which has been known to withstand attacks from the likes of Superman and Green Lantern. But aside from the amazing defensive stat that the suit offers, there's also a whole array of offensive potential that it brings to the table. For example, due to the suit's symbiotic nature, it can actually craft weapons on command that best suit the enemy the wearer is facing in the moment. Like the time when Superman is in opposition to Blue Beetle and the suit crafts kryptonite weapons in preparation for the fight. A suit that's basically alive and has the ability to turn any regular mortal into a pretty high-ranking superhero definitely deserves a spot on this list, and would rank much higher if we didn't have plenty more powerful entries to cover coming up. At number 7 is the Hellbat armor worn by Bruce Wayne. Forged by the rest of the Justice League, the Hellbat armor is what you get when you befriend the most powerful and influential superheroes in the DC universe. And considering that Batman began as a super powerless detective, seeing him wearing this suit of armor gives us pause for a moment, realizing how far he's really come. The suit is given a speed test by the Flash, it's given a technological foundation designed by Cyborg, and is forged in the center of the sun by Superman himself. The armor is so powerful that the intention in creating it is to help a human with no superhuman abilities withstand the cosmic level escapades that arrive on the Justice League's doorstep on the daily. The only downside for the suit is that it runs on Bruce Wayne's metabolism and eventually kills him if worn for too long. But he's got some good friends to ensure he doesn't take it too far. I mean, not everyone gets to say that their friends have crafted them superpowered suits of armor just to make them feel included. At number 6 is the very powerful, one and only Black Panther suit, Black Panther Habit. I think it's fair to say that the Wakandans have the technology and armor game on lock, with only Tony Stark as their competition at this point. With their access to vast vibranium reserves right on their home soil, they can craft some of the most invulnerable and dynamic supersuits of all time. The suit T'Challa wears is known to be totally bulletproof and nearly indestructible, all while staying totally lightweight and aerodynamic. But the most notable feature is, of course, the energy redistribution property which vibranium offers by nature. And taking advantage of this feature, Shuri's craftsmanship allows for the suit to let out a kinetic energy pulse on command, which proves to be one of the defining features of the suit. Black Panther Habit is also outfitted with a dynamic comms system and the signature vibranium claws, which T'Challa uses to slice through, ironically, some of the toughest armors out there. Not to mention the suit can materialize onto the wearer on command, making it just about as versatile as it could ever need to be. At number 5 we have Armor, like the hero named Armor, the mutant named Armor's armor. First appearing in Joss Whedon's astonishing X-Men, Hisako Ichiki is a superhero who goes by the mantle Armor. She has the power to summon a transparent suit of armor which grows in durability based on her memories of her ancestors. Basically, the more members of her bloodline die, the stronger the armor will get. This suggests that the armor doesn't really have a ceiling on how powerful it can become. Hisako also has the ability to control the size and weaponry of the armor on command, one time even holding her own in a face-off against Fin Fang Foom. The only weaknesses the armor has are that it can't block lasers and it can't block adamantium. This is demonstrated when Wolverine's claws pass right through the suit, but stop when his fist is held back from pushing them in any further. Although this is a pretty significant set of vulnerabilities, the armor is so durable that it still deserves a higher spot on this list. I mean, it can withstand a blow by the Muramasa blade, which is known to kill regenerative mutants with ease. So there's that. At number 4 we have Spider-Man's Iron Spider armor, designed by Stark Industries. This suit sports the signature Waldos, as they're called, on his back, which help with everything from mobility to reconnaissance, since each arm has a high-def camera on the tip. It also has a glider built in which can greatly extend the distance between web swings. Of course, it has a massively increased durability stat and a mask filter that can be used to protect against dangerous gases and even used for underwater navigation as long as it doesn't exceed the 8-minute compressed air capacity. And just to keep Spidey from needing to use his own regeneration powers, the suit itself has its own repair system that can self-repair damage in real time. This suit has it all, and when Spider-Man is given this much to work with in combination with his already versatile power set, it's easy to imagine how much more effective of a hero he can be. At number 3 is Batman's Justice Buster armor. With all the insane suits that Bruce Wayne has used over the years, you best believe that there'd be another of his on this list. As the name suggests, the suit is originally designed to combat the Justice League when they go against him during Batman Endgame. Quite different from the Hellbat armor, it's kind of the opposite. For the Flash, there's the Red Run gun controlled by an aimbot with servers that process at speeds faster than the Flash's movements. For Aquaman, there's a shoulder cannon that fires this pink foam which dehydrates the target. Then there's an electromagnetic nerve tree, as it's called, which can paralyze Cyborg's mechanical operations. For the Green Lantern, there's a citrine neutralizer which uses yellow quartz to prevent him from using his powers endowed by the ring. And for Wonder Woman, it's got the Bind of Veils, which is an interesting one. It's a lasso made of an ancient sheep's wool that entraps the target and freezes them in a state of perceived victory, since Wonder Woman never relents. And finally, for Superman, there is a plasma shield that deflects his heat vision, as well as the red giant knuckles, which contain multiple miniature red suns, which are another of Superman's weaknesses. So although these features are quite particular to a battle with the Justice League, there's no question that this suit is one of the most powerful superhero suits of all time. At number 2, we have the XO Man-O-War armor. This is the only entry on the list that comes from Valiant Comics, and it's a big one. This suit of armor is unique in that it is so powerful that it has its own presence and reputation before the wearer even comes into play. Almost like the Destroyer armor, which is an honorable mention on this list. But the Man-O-War armor is actually guilty of killing its wearers if it deems they aren't worthy of its use. But when it does find a user, boy does it offer a huge power boost. When it chooses its new owner, Auric, the suit literally makes him into a king. By putting on the suit, the wearer basically gets the benefit of laser blasters, an extremely durable exoskeleton, and of course the gift of flight, among many other benefits. The suit also brings the Chosen One a huge level of respect, considering the armor itself is ancient and has been worshipped like a god by an entire race of people for centuries. On a list about powerful suits, this just strikes me as the suit of all suits, and only gets clinched for the first position because of who rightfully deserves it overall. And that is Iron Man at number 1. With the Godbuster aka Model 63 armor. First appearing in Tony Stark Iron Man number 10, this suit of armor is just beyond comprehension in so many ways, to the point where after designing it, Stark actually feels the need to destroy it immediately after. First designing the suit in a virtual reality system called Escape, Stark has free reign to design any suit he could ever dream of with limitless capabilities. And what we end up with is the Godbuster armor. And once it comes to life in the VR landscape, Tony decides he wants to create a real one. What's slightly frustrating about this armor though is that not much is known about its true capabilities because of how quickly it's put out of commission. But Tony's brother Arno deems it Tony's masterpiece, and Ironheart gets unprecedented power level readings when she scans it. We can assume that the massive cannon on the back and the complex network of tubes and wires have the ability to stop even the most powerful of enemies, but that's still all we really know about it. Either way, if one was to doubt this suit's abilities, I could easily replace this number 1 spot with Iron Man's Godkiller Mark II armor, which deserves this spot just as readily. Sorry, but Tony Stark is just the king of super suits. It's all he's got.
Number 10. American Civil War. In What If Captain America number 1, Captain America first actually appeared in 1863 as a member of the Union in the American Civil War. This version of the Cap didn't actually receive his enhancements from a super soldier serum like he does in the mainline continuity. Instead, after being mortally wounded with an encounter with an exceedingly evil and racist version of Bucky Barnes, he's reborn by a version of Sam Wilson, who was taken in by the Shawnee, and who conjures an ancient eagle spirit that makes both Rogers and Barnes the same on the outside as they are on the inside. His suit was more Civil War era appropriate, wearing a coat, pants, and boots of the era. His classic helmet was replaced by more of a headdress, with a shield made of an unknown bulletproof material. This version of Captain America could actually summon a spirit eagle that would fight on his behalf. The uniform was supposed to represent unity of all the peoples of America, which is what this Captain America fought for. Number 9. Spirit of 76. When the original Captain America and Bucky Barnes went missing in action in 1945, the role of Captain America was kept alive by William Nasland, who was formerly the hero known as the Spirit of 76. First showing up in Captain America Comics number 49, William took on the role after being asked by President Truman. He was given a version of the uniform that was extremely similar to the original. The only real difference is the shield. That wasn't the original indestructible one. It instead was made of steel. William Nasland himself dedicated himself to being on par with the original Captain America. He just didn't have the powers. The suit's main function was to keep the idea of Captain America alive after the original's death. It also explained for comic fans why he was still around in active service after he supposedly died. So there's that. Number 8. The Captain. First appearing as just the Captain in Captain America number 337, Steve Rogers found himself unable to merely follow orders as a simple soldier, especially after the events of the government that led to him becoming nomad. He resigned the Captain America mantle, even surrendering his shield to the new Captain America John Walker. He took up a new adamantium-based shield, and with a new uniform, he went on as a subtly different titled hero. His suit as the Captain was black instead of blue, with a red and white striped chest and red gloves and boots. The suit itself did nothing different on its own, but it allowed him to continue fighting as a hero, and eventually it was passed on to John Walker when he became US agent. Hold up guys, I just want to say a quick thanks for watching. If you could toss your shields at that like and subscribe button, it would really help us out here. Also, while I have your attention, I wanted to just let you all know about Top 10 Nerd on Facebook. If you head over there, you can find more content from us. Alright, enough promotion, on to the rest of the list. Number 7. Bucky Barnes. We spoke about Sam Wilson taking up the Captain America mantle in the last video, but what about when Bucky donned the shield back in 2005? After Steve Rogers' assassination, Bucky got Captain America's shield after defeating Black Widow and eventually confronting Tony Stark, who he held responsible. After a fight, it was decided that Bucky would be the new Captain America. Bucky outfitted himself with an alternate version of Cap's costume built by Tony Stark. The new adamantium laced uniform looked pretty good, with more of a V-shaped flag design. The costume also includes a lot of black, kind of reflecting Bucky's darker nature, or even reflecting the tragic way he came into the mantle in the first place. As Cap, Bucky also wielded a pistol, which is strange to see on a Captain America, but it also makes sense for Bucky's character on the whole. Number 6. Peggy. We all know who Peggy Carter is thanks to the MCU, and if you've seen the What If show, you know alternate versions of her get the super soldier serum in place of Steve Rogers. Logically, this would make her a Captain Britain, which she is one of them as well, but a version of her appearing in Exiles number 3 in 2018 decided to become Captain America. I honestly like her Captain America costume a lot. It looks cool with the collared shirt underneath and with the shoulder straps, but it also plays to Peggy's more tactical approach, more spy and espionage vibes, I think. Plus, it's just a great concept. Number 5. Secret Avengers. When Steve Rogers became Commander Rogers of the Secret Avengers, he adopted a new suit design. It's actually very similar to and was the inspiration for the MCU Captain America Winter Soldier suit. The suit itself is more subtle, featuring a darker blue color with a silver star emblem and stripe design. It reflects the serious, darker tone of both the Secret Avengers stories and that MCU movie. In the movie, it is referred to as the stealth suit and offers more maneuverability and a more Kevlar armored design. It's also Chris Evans' favorite suit. It's a suit that allows Steve to step out of the role of Captain America, always doing what is expected, and instead act as himself and make the tough calls. Number 4. Iron Cap. This alternate version of Cap first appears in Bullet Points number 1. After Dr. Erskine was assassinated, the Super Soldier Serum program had to be scrapped, and Steve Rogers, still wanting to serve his country, agreed to join a program that saw him medically grafted to a giant suit of Iron Man armor. Obviously, this is different from most other normal Cap suits. This suit resembled the first few iterations of the Iron Man armor, with many of its capabilities. The suit, however, took a huge toll on Steve, who even went through rigorous stamina and strength training. He was eventually killed in the suit when he was sent on a mission to subdue the Peter Parker version of Hulk. The story, Bullet Points, is really interesting, serving up alternate versions of characters in interesting ways. Check it out if you have the chance. The art is also amazing. Number 3. Danielle Cage. As the child of Luke Cage and Jessica Jones, Danielle Cage has a lot to live up to. In In one possible future, and many others, Danielle exceeded all the expectations by taking up the mantle of Captain America. She was among the heroes who were summoned to the future to end All-Father Ultron's tyrannical reign. First appearing in US Avengers #1, Danielle herself inherited the bulletproof nature of her father, Luke Cage. So that's one thing that her, and by extension her suit, has over the usual Captain America uniform. But she also inherited the powers of her mother. She's one tough gal. Another interesting point about her is that her shield is a replica of the original Cap shield that is also a voice-commanded drone. But as she always reminds her villains, she doesn't just throw the shield, she is the shield. Number 2, Gladiator Cap. In the battle world, there are many lands that hold mystery and enchantment, but none as much or with as much savageness as the Green Land. First appearing in Planet Hulk #1, this version of Captain America is a fighter in the battle world Colosseum on the outskirts of Doomstadt, and he fights alongside a giant red T-Rex named Devil. That, just right there, is enough to sell me on this comic. This version of Cap wields a battle axe, alongside a shield that I'm assuming is not vibranium, but it takes a beating, so who knows. He also wears battle armor in true gladiator fashion with long blonde hair and no helmet. He is sent by God Emperor Doom and Sheriff Strange to go into the Green Land, which is basically inhabited by Hulks, and eliminate the Red King, who's a Red Hulk. It's Gladiator Steve Rogers with a battle-bound T-Rex. Just do yourself a favor and check it out. Number 1, Commander A, or Kiyoshi Morales. When a group of 5 Captain Americas from different realities are brought together, we get a look at 2 who have not yet been seen before. But the one I want to talk about here is Kiyoshi Morales, the great grandnephew of Luke Cage and the 25th century's Commander A. His uniform is quite unique, as is Kiyoshi himself, standing tallest and most imposing among the Captain Americas gathered by Toph Key. Instead of a vibranium shield, Kiyoshi's suit can generate energy shields on each arm, similar in appearance to the normal Captain America's. His suit is much more advanced as well, as you'd expect from the 25th century Captain America stand-in. It features a neuro web, which allows him to tap into wireless systems, and it stores information. Casper Cole. Before Kevin Casper Cole became the White Tiger, he was a narcotics officer. Seeking a promotion, he and a few other officers began performing unsanctioned drug busts. Casper wore a bulletproof Black Panther costume that he took from his boss, which absolutely gave him an edge. Like when he and his other officers were ambushed by a crooked cop that resulted in the other officers being put in the ICU. Casper was suspended for not wearing his vest, and he posed as the Black Panther for a time to bring down Sal and the 66 Bridges gang. Other than the usual benefits of a Panther habit, Kevin's suit sported a trench coat and many more pockets and pouches as he wielded actual 9mm pistols. I almost want to call it Detective Panther suit. Number 9, Hell's Kitchen. After being ambushed by Dr. Doom, who put T'Challa in a coma, another had to take up the role of Black Panther. T'Challa lost his enhanced abilities, and after the events of Doom War, he rendered all of Wakanda's vibranium inert. So, no powers, no vibranium, and no longer the ruler of Wakanda. How about a vacation to Hell's Kitchen? After being possessed by a demonic entity, Matt Murdock, Daredevil, needed time to recover and rediscover himself away from his home, and he left the defense of Hell's Kitchen to T'Challa. Enter the Black Panther Man Without Fear story. As the now depowered street-level defender of Hell's Kitchen, T'Challa had to rely on the basics, such as his body armor, homemade gadgets, and his fighting ability. This suit doesn't really display its own usefulness. I'd say that instead, it displays the usefulness and ingenuity of T'Challa himself. Stop right there, criminal scum. Kidding. You're only a criminal because you're so criminally good looking. Okay, I've given you a compliment. Now you give me one by liking and subscribing. I think this is a good trade-off. I boost your confidence. You support this channel so we don't fall into the black abyss of obscurity. Cool. Thanks. Love you guys. Number 8, wedding suit. A bit more of an unconventional pick for a list like this. Back in 2006, during the time of the Marvel Civil War storyline, a wedding took place. A wedding between the King of Wakanda, the Black Panther, T'Challa, and the X-Men, African princess, and some people say goddess, Aurora Monroe. Storm. The event itself was built up for a few issues in the 2005 Black Panther storyline, and in issue number 18, it finally took place. In this event, T'Challa dons a more ceremonial Panther habit, a gold necklace and a gold belt, and the classic cape. This suit doesn't serve a special function in combat outside of serving as a wedding suit, but marriage is its own kind of combat, am I right? Number 7. Ghost Panther. In this alternate reality, called Warp World, the character T'Challa was merged with the character of the Ghost Rider, Johnny Blaze. And can I just say how insanely amazing of an idea this is? The arrogant Prince T'Challa is exiled from Wakanda and goes to America, taking up the show name Johnny Blaze. After a fatal accident, Jericho Simpson, which is a warp between Brother Voodoo and Crash Simpson, invokes the demon Zarathos, who is the half-sister of the Panther goddess Bast. T'Challa actually refuses to become the spirit of vengeance at first, but eventually he did. Now, while this isn't really a Panther habit, it is a Black Panther Ghost Rider who rides a giant flaming panther, and yeah, I don't know, I'm not really seeing a downside here. Number 6. Proto-habit. Oh, Deadpool, you silly, amazing character. Okay. So basically, what happens here in Black Panther vs. Deadpool number 4 is that Mr. Poole heads to Wakanda to steal a bit of vibranium to help him heal a mailman. Wade actually ends up grabbing a red ceremonial Wakandan necklace and puts it on to go and make his escape. What he did not know is that this necklace was actually a prototype Panther habit. The suit analyzes his DNA, and since Black Panther has everybody's DNA on file, it remakes itself on Deadpool, adapting to his usual color scheme and the weapons he likes to use, christening himself Panther Poole. Or Dead Panther. No, Panther Poole. Panther Poole's better. It also pretty much brings him up to par with the true Black Panther, which is proven when the two get into it, until Wade's pocket-sized teleporter gets damaged and he teleports to the vibranium mine, which he then teleports to right outside New Jersey. Shuri's suit. As I said before, there was a point in time when T'Challa was attacked by the forces of Dr. Doom, putting him in a coma. The one who took up the mantle of Black Panther was his sister, Princess Shuri. Along with the powers that come with consuming the heart-shaped herb, Shuri also received a Panther habit. None of us should be surprised to know that Shuri herself, while being perfectly capable of hand-to-hand combat, prefers using weaponry and tech. This is reflected a little bit in her habit, which is a bit more tech-savvy. Her tech and weaponry include a truncheon, capable of dishing out electric shocks, shock nets, snake bites, which are pellets used to immobilize enemies by releasing knockout gas, and desert sand, which are microscopic sand-like devices that can release an EMP. The claws on Shuri's habit were made of vibranium shells encased by adamantium, which is a little overkill, but nice. She also used to carry standard Wakandan-made spears. She now appears to have Zuri's spear of Bashenga, which belonged to the founder and first king of Wakanda. Number 4. Panther battle armor. Okay, bouncing right off of that, Shuri actually dons another Panther armor during the events of Doom War that I just really want to talk about. Shuri wore a battle mech armor that further amplified her strength, endurance, and durability past its already peak human levels to superhuman levels. The battle suit also had new cool weapons like this pair of vibranium powered daggers. Some versions of this armor that the Dora Milaje wore have flight capabilities with these really sweet heli drone like packs. The battle armor also has sensory arrays that made her an even more formidable adversary. Overall, just an armor that boosts the already technologically advanced superhuman to another level. Number 3, Ngozi. Okay, so we've seen Ghost Panther and Panther Poole suits, but what about when the Black Panther is the host for a symbiote? A former track star who was in an accident that paralyzed her legs, Ngozi of Lagos, Nigeria eventually became bonded with the Venom symbiote. After Black Panther was killed by Rhino, who was trying to capture the symbiote, Ngozi and the symbiote instead defeated Rhino. Ngozi was recognized by the Dora Milaje, who took her to Wakanda, where she actually became the new temporary Black Panther. Ngozi herself now had the powers from the heart-shaped herb as well as the powers from the symbiote, so her habit was obviously a little different. Imagine the vibranium-laced armor plus a Venom symbiote suit. Why am I asking you to imagine this? It's a comic, we have pictures. Number 2. Heavenly Armor. This new thrice-blessed lightweight suit first appeared in Black Panther Volume 4, number 13, when he teamed up with Blade to fight vampires, which just the idea of that kind of sounds really cool. But this suit just makes it better. This suit has been consecrated in the name of the Panther God, and alongside the suit, he also wields the ebony blade of the Roman Catholic Church. This suit offers him other defenses and abilities than his regular suit. For example, it defends against attacks of a mystical nature. This Panther habit also allows him to fly if he reaches the right speed. It is also incredibly badass. I just wish we got to see more of it. Number 1. Wakanda Hulkbuster. Everybody knows Tony Stark has the Hulkbuster armor. Incredibly useful for taking on the Hulk if he ever loses control. But what I, and I'm sure a bunch of you didn't know, was that Black Panther has a Wakandan Hulkbuster. And boy, this armor is beautiful. It was created to go up against the new, totally awesome Hulk, Amadeus Cho. Unlike his Bruce counterpart, Amadeus Cho's Hulk is very in control, but everyone and their mums are afraid of what could happen. The Hulkbuster itself has sonic cannons, can fire spore clouds, and absorbs and magnifies energy. The armor eventually fails against Amadeus when he releases an EMP-like blast, rips the Buster's arm off, and rushes off to help his sister. But this armor very nearly brought him down, and all it takes is one story for it to be even more capable. Number 10, stealth armor. Yes, Iron Man has a stealth suit. Are you surprised? You're gonna say no, right? Right? There are many iterations of this suit, but just for the sake of this video, and my sanity, we are only going to cover the first one. This appeared in Iron Man 152 when Tony used the suit to infiltrate the Heaven's Hand fortress. Now, the armor itself prioritizes stealth over everything else, meaning it isn't really meant for combat. But to make up for that, the suit has a radar absorbing coating, ECM jamming, and a plasma force field thingy to distort radar and sonar. It had stealthy flight capabilities, and eventually it also had camouflage. Later iterations were much more advanced, but this is probably one of the more useful suits for many different circumstances. 9. Endo-Sim armor. I saw some of you guys suggest this one, so I wanted to give it a spot. The Endo-Sim armor is a super slick and capable version of the Iron Man armor. A lot of you have probably heard of it, but whatever. This armor first fully debuted in the Superior Iron Man story when Tony's moral axis was switched. The suit is based off of symbiote biology, meaning the process of the liquid metal suiting up is completely psionic. It's basically almost alive, not having its own intelligence, but can form into an armor without the user inside of it to command it. Tony can even send the suit out onto another person to protect or trap them. The repulsors are uber powerful. It has rocket boosted punches, can absorb electromagnetic energy, and it's not weak to sonic attacks like most symbiotes. It's also super stylish. Number 8, rescue armor. Thanks to the MCU, many people probably know that Pepper Potts has an Iron Man-like suit. Donning her armor, she becomes the hero Rescue. The armor was secretly designed by Tony for use by Pepper. The suit isn't really built for offense. Its specialties are more emergency search and rescue. The original thrusters don't even create heat, but it does have repulsors and finger lasers. The suit can fly and gives Pepper super speed and strength. It also lets her manipulate magnetic fields. The armor also is capable of generating force fields that are strong enough to catch airplanes, as an example. It generally remains the same in all its iterations, being used primarily for defense, except the MCU suit, which was clearly very offensive. Like, as in it could fight, not that it was offending people. Offensive. You get it. Number 7, bleeding edge armor. So the bleeding edge armor is a lot like the armor we see in the Infinity War and Endgame movies, meaning it's almost like a liquid armor. It's actually made of microbots, but hey, tomato tomato. The bots can take the form of clothes, other armors, or even beings upon Tony's skin. As well as that, the suit can form a bunch of different weapons. The part about this suit that I think makes it ultimately the most useful is its RT node. This powers both the suit and Tony's transhuman body. It grants him a crazy augmented intelligence and superhuman multitasking and learning abilities. Meaning, it makes a super genius even more super genius-y. Number 6, ice armor. This armor, more than anything, shows the vast range of Tony Stark's mind. The ice armor came to be when Tony Stark was sent back in time to 1 million BC. Tony had to make this suit out of whatever materials he had around. So at the time, it was a limited amount of vibranium that he turned into batteries and circuitry of his ruined modern armor. The suit defensively was kind of impressive, considering it was able to hold up against a fight with Mephisto, even if it got damaged. The weapon systems were super low tech, like so low tech it fired icicles. I'm sure this was pretty high tech though for 1 million BC. Number 5, Iron Destroyer armor. During the Fear Itself storyline, the god Odin let Tony Stark have access to the forges of Nidavellir to create weapons to counter the Serpent and his forces. Tony created a whole bunch of Uru metal weapons for himself and a group of other heroes. Tony merged the systems of his bleeding edge armor with the Uru metal, turning it into the Iron Destroyer. When Odin left back to Asgard at the end of the fight, the powers of the Uru weapons and the Iron Destroyer armor disappeared. So Tony removed the Uru from the suit and gave it back to the forges along with the rest of the weapons to be melted down and reforged into something else. This armor, as well as the other Uru weapons created, were so sweet. If he could have kept it, the armor would have been extremely useful against so many different threats. Number 4, Renaissance armor. The Renaissance armor first appeared in Iron Man Volume 3, number 1, and was created to be a safe. The Renaissance armor first appeared in Iron Man Volume 3, number 1, and was created to be a safe armor. Safe from exposure to other suits' power systems that were causing health problems. So yeah, just based on that, it's already much more useful. It had a sonic ramshot weapon in addition to normal sonic weapons, repulsors, pulse bolts, and a unibeam. It had tear gas pellets and a fire extinguishing foam in the left gauntlet. It also had a really cool hamster ball force field bubble thing to protect civilians. It almost seems like it would be a really good riot suit or something like that. Hey y'all, let me stop you for a little word from our sponsors. It's you. Thanks to all your support, we're able to keep bringing you these videos, so thanks a lot. And don't forget to shoot your repulsors at that like button. Okay, on to the top 3. Number 3, the Phoenix Killer Armor. The Model 38, or the Phoenix Killer Armor, first appeared in Avengers vs. X-Men number 5, and was created to counteract the Phoenix. Obviously. So the armor's main purpose was to kill the Phoenix Force. And if you don't know, the Phoenix Force is one of the oldest cosmic entities in the Marvel Universe. It's basically the manifestation of the force of life. It's one of the most powerful and feared entities in the Marvel landscape. And Tony was like, I can kill this with lasers. No, you can't. But what you did do, Tony, was split it in 5, which resulted in 5 mutants, Cyclops, Emma Frost, Namor, Colossus, and Magik becoming avatars to the Phoenix Force. Congratulations, you played yourself. Number 2, Model 53. The Iron Man armor Model 53 was made after Tony's normal armor failed to stop an evil clone of Squirrel Girl. So I'm calling this a Squirrel Girl Buster armor, and you can't stop me, okay? Cool. It was made for the single purpose of countering the abilities of Squirrel Girl. It's got a super cute squirrel head, which has a backup of that aforementioned RT node. It's got repulsors, obviously, but they're strong enough to even knock out Black Panther. And it sort of looks like a Hulkbuster armor, which is interesting. When the evil clone defeats all the other Avengers that Iron Man had assembled, the clone uses their weapons to defeat this suit. But if she didn't have that, Iron Man would probably have been able to take the win here. Probably. Number 1, Model 60. This armor is very interesting. You see, its main ability was to be able to switch into its transportation mode, which was, wait for it, this. Number 10, Dick Grayson's Batsuit. After the fall of Azrael Batman, Dick Grayson was the next best option, even if it wasn't what either him or Bruce wanted. Grayson made some significant changes to the Batsuit to better the suit to his style and preferences. For example, he said, "No capes!" just like Edna Mode from The Incredibles. No, he didn't, but I wanted to say it. He did actually include a cape, but it was much lighter and had more specific parachute-like functions. He changed the utility belt too, making it metal and streamlined. No longer a big pouchy leather belt, it had mechanical compartments instead. While not useful for any specific moment, it was useful in allowing Dick Grayson to take up the Batman mantle more effectively when he needed to. Number 9, the Hazbat suit. Batman is famous for being prepared for any situation. One such situation would be bioattacks, bioweapons, contagions, and other related issues. Of course Batman has a plan. The Robin named Hazbat suit is a lightweight suit that protects Batman from any airborne contagion. It also has medical scanners that aid Batman in locating the source and counter-agent to any infection he may be affected by. But this suit is not a pushover either, just because it's medically based. It's able to withstand hits from Superman. Seems like a pretty useful suit to me. Number 8, Azrael. After the extremely famous Batman moment where Bane broke Bruce Wayne's back, there was a need for someone to take up the Batman mantle. Bruce Wayne's choice ended up being John Paul Valley, otherwise known as the anti-hero Azrael. Due to his mental conditioning, while with the Order of St. Dumas, he was a much more violent Azbat, even allowing people to die. His suit reflected not only his violent tendencies, but the era in the 90s that it premiered in. John Paul created a gray, yellow, and blue battle suit with red accents. It had flamethrowers, gun batarangs, claws, and a night vision helmet. His violent ways forced the return of Batman, and the sweet suit was abandoned. But some of its capabilities would certainly have been useful in lots and lots of situations. Number 7. Superman Red Sun. We don't actually know a ton about the Batman of the Superman Red Sun story, other than his origin. What I picked up from actually reading this comic is that this version of the Caped Crusader is a bit more of an improviser, making use of what he has more than being able to purchase absolutely everything he needs. His suit and even the Batcave actually kind of reflect this. It's less form-fitting, being more like a coat and snow pants. And he even sports a Ushanka-style cowl. He also had more pockets and pouches all over and is seen with a bat-shaped axe grappling hook type weapon thingy. Due to his position as leader of a terrorist group, he carries bombs alongside his usual gear, and he even had a Batman-shaped dummy somewhere in one of those little tiny pockets. Number 6. Kingdom Come. In the story Kingdom Come, we see a world set 20 years in the future, when the noble, great heroes had mostly all retired, giving way to a younger generation of anti-heroes. Bruce Wayne had his identity revealed and had been crippled by Bane and Two-Face. This, along with his natural human aging, caused him to retire. But it's Batman, and he will never fully be out of the game. He completely turned to the Bat side, becoming the Batman, abandoning his real name and taking rule over Gotham City from his Batcave with an army of robotic Bat Knights. But this is a list about Bat suits. His new Bat suit is a mechanized power armor that allows Batman to fight in hand-to-hand combat despite his past injuries. The suit comes with grappling hooks, lasers, and sharp blades, and it can even allow Batman to fly. If that weren't enough, not only does it allow him to move like he once did, it actually gives him super strength as well. Number 5. A Joker Batsuit. What's the best way to attack Batman? You attack him personally. In the Joker Wars storyline, Joker does exactly that, stealing Bruce's money, his influence as Batman, and his weaponry and equipment. He even steals a version of the Batsuit. What makes this even more of a personal attack is that this suit was meant to be a possible future Bright Knight suit. Joker modified the suit with a big smile over the bat symbol and ha-has all over it. We first see the suit after it is shown that the Joker dug up the body of Alfred and reanimated it with the Joker toxin. Everything he is doing is to personally attack Bruce, and this suit, in combination with everything else, was the perfect way to do that. Its use isn't helpful, its use is against Batman. Is that cheating? I mean, I don't know, you decide. Number 4. Thanagarian armor. In the DC Justice miniseries, Batman ends up wearing a suit of Thanagarian armor to protect himself from Brainiac's mind control. This wasn't all this super sweet armor could do though. The armor is able to resist punches from Superman, and it's designed for combat against the world's toughest villains. Like a lot of other useful Batman armors, this suit also has a propulsion and wing system that allows him to fly, helping him deal with many more threats. It is also very obviously a callback to the old Batmobile from the 1966 Batman live-action series with the black metal red accent look. It's a shame we don't see more of it. Number 3. Augmentation suit. In a Batman and Robin New 52 storyline, Batman faces off against a villain called Terminus, trying to prevent him from destroying the world. Bruce faces Terminus in a new suit called the Augmentation suit that is equipped inside the Batmobile. While we haven't seen much of this suit yet, it is more agile than Batman's other armored suits, and it's capable of granting the man inside crazy super strength, the ability of flight, and it allows Batman to stop a nuclear missile dead in its tracks, which is really all I need to say. It's an incredibly advanced and strong Batsuit, easily making it one of the most useful. Number 2. Rookie Bat armor. This point actually technically covers 2 suits. And one is another mech suit. This isn't actually worn by Bruce Wayne. This suit actually appeared at the end of Endgame. The DC story Endgame, not Avengers Endgame, obviously. And is worn by none other than Jim Gordon when Bruce is missing and presumed dead. The super heavy bat suit and the small stealth suit inside of it were created by Powers Tech for the GCPD. It had digital camo, thermal imaging, an auto defibrillator, enhanced strength, cape-shaped bomb shields, rocket thrust boots, anti-gravity magnets boots, a tear gas cannon, a smoke pulse cannon, decibel defense, and a voice changer. It allowed the former commissioner to take the place of Batman for a short period of time. So yeah, I'd say it's pretty good.
At number 10 is the Yeoman America armor. This costume is introduced in Avengers Volume 3 issue number 2 when Morgan Le Fay uses a reality distortion wave, which turns all the Avengers into medieval versions of themselves. And Steve Rogers' look totally changes as well, with his armor resembling that of a medieval knight. What gives this suit a spot on the list is the fact that it comes with a sword, and considering how powerful Captain America is without a weapon, just imagine what he can do wielding a sword. Now, there are downfalls to the suit as well, like it appears as though it has reduced mobility due to the loincloth thing, the crude knee pads, and the hood. And one might argue that since it's a medieval costume, the shield would be made of a traditional steel or iron instead of vibranium or other reinforced metals. But still, this is a list about useful suits, and there's no doubt a sword definitely has its uses. At number 9 is the original Howard Stark redesigned suit. Okay, fine, you've probably heard of this one, but it's pretty dang useful, so it deserves a spot. Firstly, it's the first time he's given his round shield with the star and stripes, and it's made of, as Howard puts it, all of the vibranium they had at the time of its creation. This means that this suit marks the first time that Steve Rogers has all the freedom he wants to use his shield as a weapon without any recoil from his blows. The suit is also made with carbon polymer flame-resistant materials, a bulletproof helmet, and a utility belt with a gun holster on it. And we all know that in the comics, Captain America doesn't typically have a gun. So this is a huge plus for this suit. This makes this suit a great choice to take out of the closet if ever Captain America is faced with a mission where he might come under fire and have to return some himself. Pretty handy if you ask me. At number 8 is the Nomad suit. Unless you're a real Captain America fan or you just spent 2 days researching Captain America suits, you may not know about this one. Basically, back in 1974 in issue 180, Steve Rogers decides he's done with all the politics of being a hero and puts down the costume altogether. In its place, he decides it's time to design himself a brand new suit and go under the moniker of Nomad. And because of his background as a comic book artist, Steve decides to design it himself using regular materials, and he gives himself a cape. Okay, for those of you who know what I'm talking about, you're probably punching your screen right now. Like, how can a costume made out of like a polyester blend be useful at all for Captain America? But here's the thing, this suit is useful for any time that Steve Rogers needs to go under the radar or blend in with the night. It's also got a lot better mobility than his typical suits without all that bulky armor in his way. So I would argue that throwing on the Nomad suit is probably one of Steve's best options for a truly stealthy suit that he could use for covert operations. No one would recognize him, and even if they did, they might have a harder time chasing him down with what would probably be increased mobility and camouflage in the shadows. A bit of a stretch? I don't know. Let me know what you think about that one in the comments. Alright, at number 7 is his Soldier Supreme suit. During the Infinity Wars storyline, Gamora captures all the souls in the universe and puts them into a soul gem, which also accidentally creates what comes to be known as Warp World. In this dimension, every soul that she captures has fused with another, creating all these beings that are inhabited by 2 different souls each. Not only that, but history is rewritten, including all of these beings as though they'd always existed. And that's where Soldier Supreme comes in, an amalgamation of Captain America and Doctor Strange. And you betcha that this amalgamation gives us a new suit design as well, which looks a lot like what you'd expect, a Captain America and Doctor Strange hybrid. Soldier Supreme's abilities allow him to have a perfect mixture of Doctor Strange's magical powers and Captain America's leadership skills. During the Warp World version of World War II, we see Cap healing downed comrades, while also leading them into battle, making what becomes one of the most powerful and useful iterations of Captain America out there. The only reason why I don't put this one at number 1 is because it could be argued that it isn't the suit giving him these powers, but Gamora's spell. But his suit does appear entirely different when he's transformed, and that's enough to squeeze it on this list. Okay, at number 6, we have the Commander America suit, worn by a descendant of the original Captain America, Steve Rogers V. This suit appears in an issue of What If, that poses the question, what if Cap and the rest of the team went up against the Guardians of the Galaxy? This suit has 5 generations of work done on it, giving it some added features that make the suit much more useful than the original, one of which is the space helmet attachment that allows the user to travel in space. This is a useful development considering that there are some major events in the Marvel Universe that take place in the expanse of the cosmos, as well as on other planets with different atmospheres. In a hypothetical situation where Steve Rogers has a closet full of all the suits on this list, past and future, this suit would probably get taken out more often than you might think, for any conflicts that take the team into the void. It's also got some cool chrome shoulder pads as well for when he gets hit in the shoulder. Okay, fine, it's mostly about the helmet. Okay, at number 5 is the Paradise X suit, which is barely a suit at all. It's more of a single American flag wrapped around the naked body of a godlike Captain America. In this storyline, Captain America has died along with other superpowered beings we know, and they are living, or rather existing, in a celestial realm called Paradise X. And instead of the Avengers, they're called the Avenging Hosts. It's pretty out there, but basically Captain America is a ghost type entity with mystical powers in this storyline, and he is able to fly. He's also able to shapeshift and tap into the memories of the other entities in this Paradise X realm. So yeah, that's all well and good that he's super powerful, you say, but how is his suit useful? Well, this one may be arguably one of the most useful suits on the list, considering it's the only thing that's preventing us all from witnessing this supernatural Cap's celestial parts. I'm serious. That's the genuine reason why this suit takes a spot on this list. Sure, I could argue that it supports his supernatural abilities, but we all know it's just a cloth. A very useful cloth that protects this comic book series from an X rating. Useful? I'd say so. Bit of a stretch? Maybe. I thought it was funny. At number 4, we have the 2099 suit developed by Alchemax. On Earth 23291, the Captain America identity belongs to a woman named Roberta Mendez. And in this reality, the Captain America suit is extremely powerful with a few new capabilities that make this suit stand out hugely from the rest. The two main features that really give this suit the edge are the energy wings and the energy sword that the suit is equipped with. Considering Roberta also has the super soldier serum coursing through her veins, everything that comes with the suit is an automatic plus. In the very start of the first issue of Secret Wars 2099, we see a bounty hunter trying to take a shot at Roberta, but is totally overpowered by this new flying ability of hers. And there's no question that anyone wearing the suit can call on these abilities, making these new powers not exclusive to the wearer of the suit, but of the suit itself. So with the types of threats coming at this reality's Avengers, they know that their leader will have no problem in both offensive and defensive stats. This definitely beats out a lot of the other armors worn by any Captain America across all realities. This superhero just isn't often seen equipped with much other than a shield and maybe a sidearm, so energy weapons? Definitely a huge advantage for any Captain America as far as I'm concerned. Alright, at number 3 is the Hydra Supreme suit. In an alternate reality during the comic book event Secret Empire, Captain America is actually a bad guy, taking on the look of a darker, more brutal soldier than his original self. His shield has a more pointed, angular design to it, like that of a medieval knight, and the suit brings much more power to the one who wears it. This suit, when paired with the cosmic cube fragments, allows for the user to take control over Mjolnir, Thor's hammer. This, on its own, is enough of a point for this suit to score high on this list, but there's more. The suit also helps Captain America change the course of reality. Yes, this is sort of the cosmic cube doing this, but when paired with the armor, the wearer is also almost entirely impervious to harm. So I'm gonna argue that it's fair in this case. While wearing this suit, this evil version of Captain America actually strategizes successfully enough to take over Washington, D.C. and eventually all of the United States to try and instill his own order. Although his intentions are not by any means pure in this reality, this suit is undoubtedly one of the most powerful that any version of Steve Rogers wears, and for that reason, it deserves a spot on the list. At number 2 is one you most likely have heard of before, but it needed to make it on the list just because of how insanely useful it is compared to the original suit, and that is the Sam Wilson Falcon uniform. This suit is given to Sam Wilson when Steve Rogers wanes off of the super soldier serum and gives up the mantle of Captain America, and it is a huge upgrade. Taking on the abilities of Falcon and Captain America at once, this suit allows for flight and rocket and machine gun fire out of the wings. On top of this, we see how strong these wings can be when used to shield Wilson in battle. This gives the suit the added bonus of a nearly indestructible full body shield made of vibranium, on top of the iconic handheld shield passed down with the Captain America mantle. The shield can also clip into a holster on his back, giving him protection from behind when he doesn't see it coming. This suit is such a major upgrade from the original and could probably be maneuvered by anyone who puts it on, giving it sophistication. So there's no arguing that this suit on its own could be pretty useful to anyone with fighting and piloting skills, and it's probably one of the closest things that Captain America has to an Iron Man suit, other than our number 1, which is the exoskeleton suit. This is an extremely useful suit for Captain America given the circumstances he finds himself in issue 437. Sometime in the future, Captain America has been rendered completely paralyzed after contracting an illness from the super soldier serum. So, none other than Tony Stark designs him a suit that, much like the Iron Man suit, can actually get him up and walking around again, and fighting around again, and in arguably an even more effective capacity than ever before. The suit is designed to offer extreme protection due to the sophisticated armor and some other nifty effects as well, like beams that he can shoot out of his palms that cause severe cases of vertigo, and magnetic gloves and missile protection that offered Cap a lot of good defense against serious threats. Yeah, they're not the most destructive features, but this is actually intentional. Tony Stark decides to keep the suit entirely non-lethal to keep Steve Rogers' values in line, allowing him to face evil without stooping to their level. So not only is this suit useful to compensate for and basically cure his paralysis, but it's also arguably a really great suit to return to if he's ever facing an offensive threat that might require heavy armor. He can also call on the armor to attach to him within seconds because he was, totally paralyzed. But this is also a feature that's basically unprecedented for Captain America and would be useful with or without the plight of full body paralysis.
Number 10, Spider-Man Noir. This one is coming in at number 10 because people in the comments will tell me it's very well known. Yeah, I know, but it's awesome. So, I don't know, deal with it. On Earth 90214, Peter Parker modeled his spider suit after his Uncle Ben's World War I air pilot uniform. But I mean, no, he modeled it after being totally awesome. With that trench coat and the fedora hat, the goggles, the vest, he even carries a pistol. He used what he had in the 1930s to create a spider detective. You love it, I love it, we all love it. And it always deserves to be talked about when we talk about Spider-Man suits. Always. Number 9, the Bombastic Bagman. If you don't know about this suit, you're welcome. It has appeared twice. Both times are equally hilarious. The first time it ever appeared was when Peter removed the symbiote costume with the help of Reed Richards and Johnny Storm, and had no choice but to put on an extra Fantastic Four costume, but those costumes don't have masks. So what did he do? Make a new one, I hear you say? Don't be silly. No. Johnny poked eye holes in a paper bag and put it on Peter's head. But that's not all. Oh no. It seems as though someone placed a kick me sign on the back of the costume too, as if it wasn't all embarrassing enough. Adam, how is this useful? Because it's hilarious. Oh, and it's a really great last minute costume idea to keep his identity secret. Yeah, that's why. Number 8, the Canadian Spider Suit. In an alternate reality, first seen in Cosmic Ghost Rider Destroys Marvel History Volume 1, Number 6, Ben Reilly wore a suit that differs a little bit from its blue and red counterpart. This suit had a black and red color scheme. The aesthetic webbing looked very suspiciously like plaid. It had brown leather gloves and boots, and the chest spider symbol was inside of a pinkish white maple leaf-like shape. I can't possibly tell what they were going for here. Oh, you know what? I think, yeah, it's a Canadian Spider-Man. Other than the aesthetic, Canadian Spider Ben Reilly is exactly the same as his 616 counterpart, but way more apologetic and probably slightly more resistant to cold weather. Number 7, Threats and Menaces Suit. TNM, or Threats and Menaces, is a news website in New York City, and after a long time of being unemployed, Peter Parker accepts a job there. They give him a new suit that can record his perspective as Spider-Man and broadcast it live, giving viewers a first-person view of Spidey's battles, essentially turning Spider-Man into a streamer. It 100% defeats the purpose of being a hero, and if he wasn't doing it because he had no job at the time, I think it was kind of sleazy, but it's also kind of really awesome. Like, I definitely watched that. The suit also got a new, really cool white, blue, and yellow color scheme, and enhanced his strength and speed. If that wasn't enough though, the suit also has holographic abilities, and every few minutes includes a word from TNM's sponsors. Number 6, Spider-Man Earth 71928. On Earth 71928, Peter's life remained pretty much the same as Earth 616 Peter until Uncle Ben died, and Peter killed the robber who shot him. In a very Punisher-like decision, Peter decided to deal with crime by any means. Meaning he killed criminals. Peter tried to avoid this at first, but since criminals be criminals, and that life is kind of hard to leave behind, they always came back, and gosh darn it, Peter was not okay with that. Yeah, A great reason to be a murderer, man. He carried the pistol that took Uncle Ben's life as well as other weaponry with multiple different types of ammunition. His suit also took a skull logo instead of the traditional spider logo due to the spider that gave him his powers being a noble false widow, which has a cephalothorax that looks like a skull. Yeah, okay, Marvel. You know, I'm seeing a lot of Punisher parallels here. Strange. Number 5, upgraded advanced suit. The advanced Spider-Man suit in the Marvel Spider-Man video game always deserves a mention, but it's literally on the cover of the game. So another armor native to that game though comes to mind. That's the upgraded advanced suit. Peter creates this armor out of the same material that Dr. Otto Octavius created his cybernetic limbs with. While he originally made this suit as a side project, it became extremely useful when Doc Ock became his sinister self. The suit allowed Peter to be able to actually stand up to his old mentor, and it looked really good doing it. All black metal-like material with the yellow eyes and the spider symbol. After I beat the game, I definitely used this as my main suit, and you know what? It's actually worn on top of the advanced suit, so I'm kind of hitting 2 spiders with 1 stone here. Number 4, Spider-Man Carnage Doppelganger. We all know Spider-Man had the awesome Black Venom symbiote suit, but did you know Miles Morales had one too? When he was forcibly bonded with a symbiote by Carnage, the resulting suit is a corrupted looking version of Miles' already awesome suit, with a jaw, splashes and spirals, and ripped gloves and boots. It also changed colors when in a fight. Just like Peter, Miles eventually got control of the suit, changing its look with red streaks under the eyes. Also, the spider logo was skinny and the legs extended and wrapped around the shoulders and thighs. This suit was both useful and detrimental. All the perks of having a symbiote bonded suit, but also with all the cons. It didn't last as long as Peter's run with the symbiotic suit though, which sucks when you know how much better it looks. Don't kill me in the comments for that. Hold up. Hey, before we carry on, I just want to say thanks. Thanks for being you. Thanks for watching. Thanks for hitting that like button. And if you did it, thanks for subscribing. It means a lot to us here. Okay, now let's carry on before I get too sentimental. Number 3, the black cloth suit. After Peter Parker defeated Venom and removed the symbiotic suit, his girlfriend at the time, Black Cat, gave him this black cloth Spider-Man suit that was thankfully not a symbiote. Her reasoning was that, well, to put it plainly, she thought he looked sexier in the black suit. Hey, we all know black is sexy, okay? He was initially resistant to the idea, but he had to wear it because his other suit shrunk in the wash. Yes, that's the actual reason. Peter Parker problems, am I right? Really, it was because fans loved the black suit. I am one of those fans. The black suit and his traditional suit were swapped in and out from time to time, and the black suit was even his primary suit for a while when the other one was destroyed. This suit was useful for Peter as his girlfriend loved it and fans loved it. Oh, and it was really good for stealth and intimidated the hell out of bad guys. Yeah. Number 2, Fear Itself suit. If you don't know about the Fear Itself story, well, change that please. It's an awesome story. Basically, the brother of Odin, who is evil, returns and sends these magical Mjolnir-like hammers to Earth that corrupt heroes and turn them into his chosen. That's a ton of power, and the heroes really struggle to quell that threat. Tony Stark and the dwarves of Nidavellir team up to create Uru armor and weapons for a bunch of heroes. Spider-Man was one of those heroes. The suit had 2 gauntlets on each wrist, which were equipped with blades on each arm which could be used as melee weapons. It also changed the color scheme to a neon-like blue and white scheme. It was really sweet looking. Unfortunately, we don't really know the full capabilities of the suit as Odin ordered it and the other Uru weapons to be destroyed after the conflict. But it had to be extremely useful against the Asgardian level threats because they won. Number 1, Superior Spider-Man suit. Fans of the character will know that the Superior Spider-Man is actually Dr. Otto Octavius, who switched bodies with Peter Parker. After Peter died in Otto's body, and Otto was shown the experiences and memories of Peter, he decided to become an even better Spider-Man. Part of that process included creating a new suit. The modifications to the suit weren't just aesthetic. Otto added a heads-up display on the lenses. All of the fingers on the gloves have retractable claws on them, and the big toe on both boots is separated from the rest of the boot, and both have retractable talons, which is kind of weird. He also added carbonadium in the mask to prevent mind switching. He added a built-in communications device to activate nano spider tracers, and created spider arms on the back. When Peter came back, surprise, he used the suit with energy weapons and extra arms in order to defeat Itsy Bitsy. Yes, that's a villain. This suit was much more advanced and also looked pretty awesome.
Which starts our list at number 10 with Spider-Man's bulletproof suit, or Spider Armor Mark II. This suit is designed when Peter Parker loses his spider senses, which we all know would make him much more susceptible to bullets specifically. So instead of taking a break and hiding away for a while, or being too heroic and going out and getting shot, Peter just creates a new and improved spider armor to face off against Massacre, a mass murderer. Massacre had captured a bunch of hostages, but when Spidey swoops in, he makes easy work of the killer by easily deflecting his bullets. The suit's magnetic webbing also interferes with the villain's ability to remotely activate traps, which I'm not sure was planned or not, but hey, the suit comes through again for Spider-Man in that way too. This suit was very useful for this very specific situation, but sits back on the list just because there are simply much better suits coming up. Okay, at number 9, we've got Spider-Man's Electro-Proof suit. This suit was created in Amazing Spider-Man number 425 in an effort to get a one-up on Electro, a villain who we all know has electric powers. The reason why Peter Parker hadn't come up with this idea before is that it just didn't seem necessary, as Spider-Man could usually find ways to outmatch Electro. But this time, Electro had found a way to supercharge himself and become even more powerful than ever before. So Spider-Man decides to design a brand new suit, which also just looks really cool. Although it was first presented in the comics, the suit can also be used in 2014's The Amazing Spider-Man 2 video game for PS4. Okay, number 8 goes to the SP//DR suit. Kinda says spider in a fun way. This suit is featured in the hit animated movie Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse, but was first introduced in the comic event of the same name. The suit is controlled by Penny Parker, who's taking over for her late father, who used to man the suit. What's interesting about this armor is that it's partly controlled by a living radioactive spider that lives within it. And to use the suit, Penny has to get bitten by the spider, which she dutifully does. The suit is massive, offering tons of protection, and it shoots extra durable webs out of its integrated web shooters. And a suit that's mechanized and able to shoot webs even stronger than those of the original Spider-Man comes in handy when facing off against bad guys like Penny's universe's Mysterio. In a big face-off, the suit proves useful when Penny is able to avoid the effects of a nauseous gas emitted by Mysterio, so it seems like the suit also offers some pretty effective filtration. Not the most versatile suit, but an interesting one that might come in pretty handy in certain situations. At number 7, it's the stealth suit, also known by fans as the Big Time costume. After facing off against the new Hobgoblin in the Amazing Spider-Man number 649 and 650, Peter goes back to Horizon Labs, where he'd been working a day job, and designs the suit to be better, well, suited for the fight. This costume is extremely useful in that it's got a few different settings for different matchups. In camo mode, the suit turns green and keeps him invisible both visually and audibly to anyone who he doesn't want seeing him. This means that through certain lenses held by his allies, the green outlines can be seen, so they know where he is in battle. The other mode is called anti-sound mode, which turns the suit red, and it cancels out all sonic-based attacks like the new Hobgoblin supersonic attacks. The suit also has anti-metal spiders that can shoot out the top of his wrists that will eat away at and dissolve metal. And the suit can also repair any tears in the fabric at the command of the wearer's thoughts. At number 6, we've got Spidey's Future Foundation costume. This suit is designed by the Future Foundation, which is kind of like the revised Fantastic Four, and it has a really cool black and white finish. But that's not what this list is about. The suit is also extremely handy and implements some pretty futuristic technology known as third-generation unstable molecules. This technology allows Peter Parker to switch from the black and white look to the classic red and blue, or even his civilian clothes in an instant with just a thought. The suit also can't get dirty due to the unstable molecules, which is pretty cool. But the most useful part of this suit is probably its stealth capabilities, which allow Spidey to go almost completely invisible. This feature is particularly useful when he needs to swing around at night without being seen. It's just a great suit that helps Peter Parker's already formidable powers to shine even more, and it's just one of the coolest looking ones, in my opinion. Okay, number 5, we've got the Spider-Man 2099 suit. This spider suit has a cape. Yes! It's kind of small, but it's a frickin' cape. First worn by Miguel O'Hara in Spider-Man 2099 number 1, this suit was originally designed for Miguel to wear at a Day of the Dead celebration. Yes, this suit was meant for partying, but very soon became much more than that, with an upgraded version actually incorporating jet boots. I think this is such a cool addition to a Spider-Man suit because it makes a lot of sense to enhance his swinging capabilities. It's also got GPS sensors, allowing the wearer to navigate around the city effortlessly. Sadly, in the newer iteration of the suit, the cape was scrapped, but in its place are these tiny web wings that allow the wearer to glide a bit more in the air. This suit is just a lot of fun and would be very useful for day-to-day crime fighting around the city because it allows this Spider-Man to reach new speeds in the air and I would imagine longer times between web swings. It also just looks really cool again. Okay, fine, they all look cool, but I just have to say it still. Okay, at number 4, we've got the Iron Spider armor created by Tony Stark. In many realities, Peter Parker either turns down this suit or retires it quickly for various reasons, but thankfully, he does make use of it a few times. We've all had the pleasure of seeing how this suit looks in all its 4K MCU glory, but what's really great about this suit is what it can do. Firstly, the most notable feature, visually speaking, are the mechanical spider arms, which are actually called Waldos for some reason. These arms actually have cameras on the tips of them to peer around corners, and small grippers built to the end of the tips so they could act as extra arms for climbing and getting around. The suit can glide as well, allowing Spider-Man to move around a bit in the air, and underwater, because the suit also has a state-of-the-art mask filter that allows for nuclear, biological, and chemical filtration, as well as 8 minutes of clean oxygen if the wearer needed to explore something underwater. There are so many more things to cover as well. This suit is basically just as protective as the classic Iron Man suit, and with all these extra abilities, it just adds so much more power to Peter Parker's already impressive abilities. Alright, at number 3, we've got Spider Armor Mark III, otherwise known as the Ends of the Earth suit. This suit is created in Horizon Labs by Peter Parker as a last resort to help take down the Sinister Six. But I guess Peter works well under pressure because this suit is insane. Starting with the helmet, it has super hearing capabilities designed to pick up on Chameleon's heartbeat. The helmet could also communicate with Spider-Man's fellow teammates in battle with a comm link system. It also has a holographic sensor allowing the wearer to see through Mysterio's holograms and illusions, and it's capable of repelling Electro entirely, turning him back into human form on command, which is pretty cool. The suit allows for Spider-Man to fly with jet boosters and enhances web shooters that allow the user to fire more webs than the typical suits. Not only that, but the utility belt on the suit carries multiple cartridges of different types of webbing, also spider tracers and ice spiders. And listen, I'm leaving out a few things for time's sake too. Listen, the only reason why this suit doesn't take number 1 is because its abilities were catered pretty specifically to the feat of taking down the Sinister Six. So, in other cases, it might not be quite as effective as it is facing off in this specific scenario, but that's only one small fault for a very useful suit. Pretty nuts. At number 2, we're graduating from the term useful and veering more into absolutely overpowered with Spider-Man's Captain Universe suit. Alright, fine, this isn't really a suit per se. Like, it's not something any old Peter Parker could slip on and off, but it's still a suit and it's still extremely useful. This suit was created when Spider-Man was involved in a lab accident, but unlike the radioactive spider situation, this time he's actually given what's called the Uni-Power, making him one of the most powerful Spider-Man characters we've ever come across. He's got Univision, which endows him with a sort of cosmic consciousness, allowing him to sense things not just coming at him in the macro world, but he can sense things on a subatomic level, bringing the Spidey senses to a whole new meaning. This power also allows him to get people to tell the truth, which is pretty handy, I'd say. In Captain Universe form, Spider-Man can also manipulate energy, allowing him to fly. And above all this, the actual suit allows Spider-Man to withstand extremes in temperatures, allowing the wearer to traverse basically any environment on Earth and possibly beyond. He also has enough strength to punch the Hulk into orbit. And yes, it may be arguable that this isn't the suit allowing for this kind of power, but the suit and the powers kind of come together in this instance, so it remains on the list. Okay, at number 1, it is the Amazing Spider-Man suit, or Spider Armor Mark IV. Okay, here we go. This suit can detect magic, infrared and X-ray beams, scan injured people to determine their injuries, and even detect plasma levels in blood to help administer first aid on a superhuman level. And in this iteration of the Spider Armor, the different webbing is available not by switching out cartridges on a waistband, but by voice command. So the wearer just has to say the word and the web shooter will go from shooting regular webs to electrified webs, to concrete webbing, which is a web with such strong durability that it was able to stop an Aztec god in its tracks. The suit also has an array of defensive capabilities like administering antidotes if the wearer comes into contact with poison, as well as stealth and camo abilities as well. I'm missing so much just to keep this one short, but it's fair to say that this suit is the most widely useful as of posting this video, and I just can't wait to see what comes with the Spider Armor Mark V.
Number 10, the Arctic Armor. First appearing in Iron Man number 318 in July of 1995, the Arctic Armor was made to withstand the harsh temperatures and conditions of the Arctic. While mainly used by Tony so he could access his secret Arctic bunker, the suit could be used in other cold weather situations, like if he had to fight an Arctic-based villain. Being in Canada, I would absolutely find a use for this suit. For example, I could use it to walk to work without the air hurting my face. Number 9, Hydro Armor. We know that the Iron Man armors all have some underwater capabilities. We saw it in the first Avengers movie, but the Hydro Armor can work at underwater depths of up to 3 miles down, surviving the crazy water pressure that comes with being deep in the sea. I'm gonna be honest, this couldn't be me. The ocean makes me wet my tidy whities. But I guess when you've got like a tri-beam style unibeam, mini torpedoes, electrical field generators, and an octopus style black ink thingy, you are a bit more safe. Number 8, High Gravity Armor. I like this one. Even if its design is goofy, it's something I think would actually need to be taken into account. This suit was made to help its wearer withstand the increased gravity conditions of hyperspace travel, helping the body keep blood in the limbs, not just the torso, and those huge feet helped with moving around. The suit helped Tony withstand 50 Gs, but his actual limits haven't really been explicitly mentioned. It didn't stop Tony from passing out from G-Lock though, and it definitely didn't stop him from puking, but it cleaned him up and disinfected him, just like a good friend after a party. Number 7, Cold Iron Armor. Everything in the War of the Realms related stories is just so metal. The Cold Iron Armor first appeared in Iron Man Volume 5, number 24 back in 2014, and came to be when Tony was on a stealth mission in the dark elf homeworld of Svartalfheim. The armor itself is actually worn over top of another suit, and it's completely made of iron. Iron is actually a metal that is lethal for dark elves, so it's kind of weird that Iron Man wasn't the first one called, but this is actually an Iron Man armor. Like, actually iron. Its weapons include a fireable iron hook, a cloud of iron nails, and these super sweet iron claws on each arm. Just look at this thing. Number 6, God Killer Armor Mark II. Bet you didn't know that Tony Stark had a celestial-sized suit of armor powered by 8 nuclear reactors that is just casually orbiting Mars. Or I guess if you read Avengers Volume 8, number 5, you would. This armor entered the fray when the Dark Celestials attacked the Earth and battled alongside giant versions of She-Hulk, Thor, and Ghost Rider. While there are other versions of the God Killer armor, this one is my favorite. And the fact that it was kept orbiting Mars just in case really feels like something Tony Stark would do. Number 5, Deep Space Armor. This is probably the one armor on this list that most people have heard of. This suit was created when Tony Stark took a vacation from Earth and went out into space with the Guardians of the Galaxy. The suit can use an autopilot in emergencies and even allows Tony to control suits hundreds of light years away back on Earth. It's a modular suit too, allowing for things like enhanced back thrusters and wrist-mounted explosive launchers. It even has an extension that allows for lunar landings. It can travel at warp and sub-warp speeds, which is useful for space travel. Just overall for space travel, this suit is the most useful of all the Iron Man armors. 4, the Ablative Armor. This armor was pretty unique. It consisted of tons and tons of little honeycomb-shaped tiles that are all held together by a force field. The idea was that the tiles would break on impact, better absorbing impacts that a solid piece of armor was less useful for. Anytime a tile would be destroyed or fall out of the force field, it would be replaced by another tile, which is good for a suit of armor. These tiles could even separate from the armor itself and be used as projectiles or as countermeasures. Overall, it's just an armor with so many unique and useful capabilities, and I hope we see more of it. Hey you nerds! Before we get on to the top 3, I just wanted to say a quick thanks for watching. I hope you're enjoying the video. If you are, why not hit us with a like and maybe subscribe? It really helps us out to continue giving you videos. Alright, moving on. Number 3, the Nano Iron Man armor. Now this is a bit less of a traditional armor. When battling Fin Fang Foom, Tony initially used the giant Fin Fang Foom Buster armor, but when that failed, he instead shot a pod of thousands of Nano Iron Man armor microbots into the dragon thingy's blood. The bots were then remotely operated to investigate Fin Fang Foom and then fight his antibodies and travel to his brainstem, where the armors were used to destroy the control disk. Nanobots are a technology we're trying to develop in the real world to solve thousands of problems, mainly medical in nature. So this is an extremely useful armor. Number 2, Thor Buster armor. Now most people know about the famous Hulkbuster suit thanks to the MCU, and just because it's awesome. But did you know Tony has made a Thor Buster armor as well? There are actually a few Asgardian based Iron Man armors, and they are all extremely awesome and useful. But to me, an armor to counteract the God of Thunder directly seems the coolest. He used the armor to go toe to toe with the God of Thunder, who is already massively powerful. But Thor was actually boosted up by the power of the Odin Force at the time. The armor was able to manipulate Asgardian energies like the Odin Force, which served Tony well. He was even capable of stopping Mjolnir mid-fight. Unfortunately, Thor destroyed the suit's reactor, forcing Tony to eject. But if this armor could trade punches with Odin Force Thor, it would be extremely useful facing any Asgardian related threat. Number 1, the Virtual Armor. This suit is probably the most unique of all of Tony Stark's armors. It's also the most recent suit on this list. The Virtual suit first debuted in Iron Man 2020 Volume 2, Number 5, when Tony Stark had his consciousness pulled out of his body to save his life, and it resulted in the Virtual Armor, which was made from the resources of the 13th floor, which is basically a virtual reality built of solid light. Look, it's hard to explain, okay? The Virtual Armor could allow Tony to create any weapon he can think of. It augmented his strength, it protects against weapons fire, and it's invisible by default, acting as almost a force field around Tony. It can separate to form a prison-like bubble. The suit even somehow still allows him to fly and protects him from the vacuum of space. I have no idea how it works. Like, at all. And it's the most comic booky thing I've ever heard of, but its almost limitless possible capabilities easily make it the most useful Iron Man suit.